that everywhere, the young people started to believe, okay, this is what we've been missing out on. This is the life that we want to have. It's not really about democracy and freedom, but it's about prosperity. It's about secularism. It's about getting the mullah separated from the state. So he has a huge support base, but then there's always talk, is it because people really want him, or is it because all other opposition figures inside the country have been killed, jailed, sidelined?
Human rights activists say there have been around 25,000 people detained in these recent protests, but the figure cannot be independently verified. Political leaders from Washington to Brussels were voicing their concern, with threats of intervention from the US if the regime continued the crackdown. At the time of recording this program, no action has been taken.
That promise never was kept by the US president. A lot of Iranians now feel betrayed. My own analysis would be that a lot of these young people, they don't remember history. They don't remember how this regime came to power and how it managed to stay in power and what it took, how many killings, how much suffering it took to consolidate its grip on the country. I find it difficult to believe that people at this stage, at least for another generation, whether they'll be willing again to go out and protest. I may be completely wrong, but after such a massacre, I just find it hard for things as it is for people to find the courage to go out in the street unless they have a death wish, because you cannot confront and overthrow a government that is armed to the teeth with bare hands. I don't foresee a protest, at least of that magnitude, happening in Iran again unless the equation changes dramatically.
Does the regime have any support in Iran?
You have about 10 to 15% of the population who support always the hardline candidates, the pro-regime loyalist candidates. So based on that figure, we're always saying, many experts and Iran watchers always keep that figure, 10 to 15% of hardcore supporters.
Now it's time to return to our question. Is history repeating itself in Iran? The protests, which began on the 28th of December over the economy, have turned into calls for the end of the rule of Iran's supreme leader. The Iranian government has called the demonstrations riots backed by the nation's enemies. The Islamic Republic itself was born out of a revolution in 1979. Less than half a century later, calls for another change have emerged, with loud voices from across different demographics. The regime's grip on the population appears tighter than that of the monarchy it once replaced. This edition of The Inquiry was written and presented by me, Daniel Rosny. It was produced by Megan Lawton. The editor was Tom Bigwood, and the technical producer was James Bradshaw.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and you are on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. I'll have a full look at the forecast in a moment. Pretty straight ahead today, and let's get into what's happening with the show. We're on air till 8:37. If you need us on the commute, you're going to call 788-3093, and Corey Funk's going to pick it up. Corey covers the commute on the show, also directs the program. Morning, Corey. Also, let's say good morning to our Studio 15 control room. Otherwise, Mr. Abby Adiyemi behind the controls, our senior tech. Abby's also on the air with weather for us on the program. And Mr. Darren Marash is the producer of our YouTube stream. If you're watching, say hello to him there. Good morning, Heather Wells, who's in our CBC Manitoba News Centre. She's here now at 3 minutes to 6 o'clock with your headlines.
Good morning. Well, immigration cuts are forcing Manitoba to refocus its provincial nominee program. Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says the program's been devoting more spots to temporary residents at the expense of skilled workers from overseas who already have ties to Manitoba. We'll hear more about why that's the case. And the surgical unit at Victoria Hospital is getting equipment upgrades expected to improve safety and some surgical wait times. The hospital's busiest operating room is first in line. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, it is going to be around minus 19 today in the city of Winnipeg with some increasing cloud this morning and just a chance we're going to see a few flurries. In Brandon, sunshine for you and a high of minus 19 as well, but you'll have a sunnier start, as I mentioned. And in Thompson, cloudy, 60% chance of flurries for you and a high of minus 18. So really similar top to bottom in the province. Well, on the show today, we are going to be talking about what is happening with a series of lawsuits down south. They're aimed at social media giants who claim the lawsuits claim the products are addictive and harmful to young people. We've heard a bit about this in the news, but we'll get some full analysis about whether or not these will go anywhere and whether or not they will protect young people online or be proven to not be problematic. In addition, later, remember, we've got our ongoing contest this week, and please enter. It's your chance to win a fabulous night out in Winnipeg, WSO, performing with Murdoch Mysteries, food, a limo, all kinds of stuff. And then you might have heard yesterday in the news, this look at the new plan to develop downtown heritage building into housing. Heather mentioning it as well. The CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz will be here for an interview. Stay with us.
On cue.
Jane Hollander, I wanted to introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. The show Heated Rivalry has become a global sensation, and it's based on a book by Nova Scotia's Rachel Reed. She'll tell you about writing this gay love story that takes place in the world of hockey and how she's managing the pressure of having all of this success.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Anti-ICE protests are spreading beyond Minnesota. People are demonstrating against the actions of immigration officers. Dozens of protesters have been arrested in New York, where ICE agents were believed to be staying. Anger is rising over the shooting death of 2 U.S. citizens, and the political divide is deepening. During a town hall last night, a congresswoman was attacked. Steve Futterman has the latest.
In Minneapolis last night, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was addressing a gathering of constituents.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
When suddenly a man stood up, walked toward her, and sprayed her with a substance. He was quickly tackled and then arrested. As tensions continue, Donald Trump has been forced to change some of his language. The administration is no longer calling the man who was killed this weekend by federal agents, Alex Preddy, a domestic terrorist. But Trump yesterday still seemed to be at least partially blaming Preddy for his own death.
I don't like the fact that he was carrying a gun. I mean, it's pretty unusual.
But a preliminary report by the Department of Homeland Security confirmed last night that at no time did Preddy brandish his gun. In Minneapolis yesterday, there were more protests.
We want the identity of the officers who killed Alex Preddy.
Demonstrations also took place in New York City, where anti-ICE protesters went inside a hotel where officers are being housed. There were some arrests.
I'm being arrested because Hilton is housing ICE.
Trump says he will, quote, de-escalate a little bit. However, there are no specifics, and federal agents remain in Minneapolis. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Ecuador's foreign ministry says ICE agents tried to enter the country's consulate in Minneapolis yesterday. A video posted online appears to show 2 men blocking a door. One can be heard yelling, "You cannot enter here," and "This is a foreign government's property." Ecuador's foreign ministry says it has filed a formal notice of protest with the U.S. Embassy in Ecuador. It's now 1 month since Iranian demonstrators first took to the streets, and U.S. President Donald Trump is again talking about U.S. troops heading towards Iran. As Crystal Gomansing reports, it is still not clear what action the United States is prepared to take.
Everybody was saying, oh, this is it. This is the last movement. We're going to win this time.
25-year-old Parnia was with protesters in the streets of Isfahan on January 8th. She lives in the UK but was visiting family. She told the BBC demonstrators were hit first with tear gas and then plastic pellets.
I saw people on the ground. I saw blood. I didn't know where to go. So I just started running to find a shelter.
Parnia asked that only her first name be used. She expressed horror at the injuries she saw, yet went back out the next night, protesting as more people across the country called for an end to the Iranian regime. U.S. President Donald Trump encouraged the demonstrators, telling them he'd help. Last night in Iowa, he said this.
There's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal.
The possibility of U.S. intervention no longer sounds focused on defending the protesters, but rather ending a long-standing fight over Iran's nuclear ambitions. Earlier this week, Hezbollah's chief, Naim Qassem, said a new war on Iran would ignite the region. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
We will find out how Canada's central bank perceives the future of the country's economy this morning. The Bank of Canada will make its latest interest rate announcement. The current rate is at 2.25%. Most economists expect it to stay there. Economic uncertainty is on the horizon. There are concerns about the upcoming review of the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement. There's a lot of talk about Canadian unity as the country's premiers gather in Ottawa. Their winter meeting is tomorrow, but there are also some separate chats on the Prime Minister's agenda today. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what do we know about all these talks?
Marcia, you could think of today as the meeting before the meeting, or rather meetings plural, because not only are the premiers sitting down today as a group before they meet as a group with Prime Minister Mark Carney tomorrow, but the real action really is in these smaller gatherings. Ottawa's hosting a Nordic Arctic symposium today. That's a real focus for territorial premiers and an urgent one. The threats to northern sovereignty from the Trump administration may have stepped back from the brink, but they haven't disappeared. And a renewed push seems to be underway to present a united Team Canada front. We're going to see Ontario Premier Doug Ford and New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt out together over the noon hour, championing the recent expansion of the Port of St. John and its new capacity now to move more goods from central Canada. It's also game on between these premiers to compete for the resources and attention of the federal government to get their own priority economic projects built. Speaking on CBC Radio 1's The Current this morning, Manitoba's Premier Wab Kinew was touting his own port ambitions as he prepared to sit down with Mark Carney.
You know, of course, I want to hear them say they're going to back the money truck up to Churchill, Manitoba and build that port and trade corridor.
And speaking of getting resources to market, the Prime Minister's bilateral meeting agenda today includes a talk with BC Premier David Eby alone, followed by a closed-door chat with both Eby and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. As pipeline proposals remain unresolved, to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor and our Parliamentary Bureau. Amazon is preparing for another round of layoffs. The company's senior vice president is confirming around 16,000 jobs will be cut. She says U.S.-based staff would be given 90 days to look for a new role internally before being offered severance pay and other outplacement services. It's not yet clear how many Canadian workers may be affected. In October, Amazon laid off around 14,000 people. Ancestry.com is now explicitly barring law enforcement from using its services without a court order. It is the world's largest family tree database, and it updated its terms and conditions quietly. As Jonathan Gatehouse reports, the move affects how police solve decades-old cold cases.
This is a bracelet I was given.
The inscription on Sean McCowan's bracelet reads 14,219. A constant reminder of how many days it took to catch his sister's killer.
The body of Toronto native Erin Gilmore was
murdered in her Toronto home in 1983. Her case went cold until 2022, when police made an arrest using genetic genealogy to track down the killer. Joseph George Sutherland is now serving a life sentence.
It would sort of resolve a lot of trauma, knowing that someone is paying for what they did.
Solving cases like Gilmore's has recently become even harder, with the world's biggest genealogy database, Ancestry.com, now banning police from using the site to research things like birth, death, and marriage records without first obtaining a court order.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Toronto Police Headquarters.
Genetic genealogy has been a game changer for police, estimated to have helped solve more than 1,400 cases worldwide in the past 8 years. It puts old crime scene evidence through advanced new DNA tests that can give police clues on eye color, hair color, and most importantly, ancestry. Information that is compared to other DNA profiles to find distant relatives of the killer. Mapping out those family trees is a painstaking process. Ancestry's ban will make it even more time-consuming, says Acting Detective Sergeant Steve Smith, head of the Toronto Police Cold Case Unit.
It's not going to stop us from solving the cases. It's just going to slow us down from solving these cases.
At Ancestry, privacy is always our top priority.
An Ancestry.com spokesperson declined an interview request. A recent blog post about the change says the company is making sure the site is used for what it was created for, family history research. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
The nominees have been announced. Now the countdown is on to the 55th annual Juno Awards, and this year there is a new category: Latin Music Recording of the Year. Toronto-based Lido Pimienta is among the inaugural nominees. So is Andy Rubal, Isabella Love Story, and Mario Poglia. And of course, 7-time Juno nominee Alex Cuba. They've all been identified as the voices shaping Latin music today from a distinctly Canadian perspective. The Juno Awards broadcast happens in Hamilton, Ontario on March 29, and you can watch it on CBC. That's World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. How you doing? We had a number of people on the list from Manitoba for Juno Nods yesterday, so pretty exciting. You might have heard some of the music through the day here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. That's where you are this morning on CBC's Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Pretty similar day coming across the province, so a little more cloud cover here in Winnipeg than out west. We'll have your full forecast for this Wednesday morning in just a moment as we try to get through the last week of January together, the longest month it feels like. This hour on the show, a series of lawsuits in the States aimed at social media giants claim their products are addictive and harmful to young people. We're going to have a closer look at what's going on with that. Also, the federal government's latest policy to address the affordability crisis is also something you might have your mind on. Let's look at more deeply this hour at the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit and whether or not it's going to benefit you. Heather Wells is here with other headlines from Manitoba. Hi, Heather.
Hi, good morning. Well, a Canadian criminologist says extortion cases are on the rise across the country. Yesterday, Winnipeg police announced charges for 5 people in a string of arson and extortion cases at several convenience stores in July. 2 people are still wanted. Now, criminologist Wade Deisman says crimes like these are increasing right across the country. We're going to hear more from him. And a union for more than 100 workers at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hopes a budget cut doesn't lead to job losses. The museum's budget is being reduced by $3.2 million over the next 3 years as Ottawa tries to rein in spending. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, I think this morning we should be a little creative. It's the last week of January. It's Wednesday, and a lot of people say this month just feels like it goes on forever. So I'm about to post this on Facebook, but in my head I'm thinking we should write breakup letters to the month. Like, Dear January, you never let me go out, right? That kind of deal. You can do better than that. But we want your breakup letter to January. And you can write it to us, and that'd be great. You keep me captive in the house. I'm sick of you. You're boring. I don't know. What's your breakup letter to January? You can have some fun with that. This morning we were talking about acronyms. Abby, you had a good one for the month.
My letter will be Dear January, how long, doe? But now you said my acronym would be PLT. Pretty long, doe.
It is pretty long.
Yeah,
though.
like it still has like extra days and we're going to use up all the weeks. Like months usually leaves like that wiggle room of I'm going to end on Thursday and then new month is going to start like on a Saturday or a Friday. But no, January wants to use up all the days of the week.
It's doing it all. Yeah. And when May does this, we love it. But January, no. I don't know anyone that like looks forward to January. Maybe winter. I'm not dissing winter, but January. Okay. What do we have for the weather today?
Well, we're waking up to another frigid one for sure, Marcy. It's going to be another bitey Wednesday. Temperatures will be holding steady. We're looking at temperatures in the minus 20s across the region this morning. We're talking about minus 21 down south, and then we're going to see minus 26 up north. And towards Swan River, we're seeing minus 29 at this time. Winnipeg at this time, we're looking at temperatures hover between minus 22 and minus 26. Mostly cloudy outside. We have a slim chance of flurries in the forecast. A high for today, minus 19. Though morning temperatures won't really move much. We're going to see it hover between minus 25 and minus 26 all morning. And then we might get to minus 21 by midday period. But a high for the day is minus 19. And the wind chill coming from the northwest is going to feel like minus 26. Up north, we're seeing blowing snow already from Churchill, Thompson, and even around to Dooley Lake, where temperatures hover between minus 23 and minus 20, and Lynn Lake is sitting at minus 26 now. Winnipeg, depending on where you are, it might say minus 22, some areas clocking minus 26.
All right, Abby, thanks.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, one issue to keep an eye out for, actually, and this actually came from Abby this morning. I know yesterday we got a call about a car just past Bison. That was stalled in the left lane on northbound Pembina. And Abby, on his way in this morning, noticed it's still there. So in the left lane, that's northbound Pembina, just past Bison. So keep right together on that. Apparently, it can kind of sneak up on you because all its lights are off, so you don't really see it. But if you do see something else going on out there, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, or if that car goes away, I'd love to hear about that. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, this is about the time of year when some grade 12 students are contemplating their futures after high school. Well, how about another year in the halls of a high school, physically at least? Sisler Create's post-high film program is on the hunt for budding filmmakers to fill out their 2026-27 class. Marcus Fowler is one of the instructors there, and Samira Abalor finished the program last year and is now pursuing a theater and film degree over at the University of Winnipeg, next door to you, to us here at CBC. They spoke with CBC guest host Chloe Friesen yesterday about the program.
So, Marcus, let's start with you. Tell us about the program. What do students learn?
It's a 1-year intensive filmmaking training program. It's based out of Sisler High School, but it's not high school anymore. It's next level. A lot of our students come from various high schools around the city, and they many of them have taken some type of film courses before, but not all. And they have a really specific interest in learning about filmmaking, exploring it as a career, and they can come spend a year with us. We spend the first 2 months doing a skills boot camp, so to kind of get everyone up to speed and make sure that everyone's ready to tackle our first big projects. And then we spend the rest of the first semester focusing on documentary filmmaking, and we work very closely with CBC, actually. We've produced over 50 short documentaries that have gone on CBC now at this point. And then as students move into second semester, they have the opportunity to make narrative short films. So those that have a dream of being a writer-director, they get their chance to do that. So they do those things. They also get to work with various organizations creating freelance content. They do internships. We have many different speakers who come in and do workshops. So it's very well-rounded.
Who's best suited for a program like this? What kind of students are you looking for?
Ideally, we want grade 12 grads who have an interest in filmmaking. So if they've taken some type of video production courses in high school, that's fantastic. But we have students that come to us sometimes with an interest in learning that. Maybe their background is more in graphic design or photography, but who really want to explore this as a potential career for them. We often tell students there are a lot of post-secondary filmmaking or video production training programs out there in the city. Those are options, but spend a year with us first because it's free. You learn a lot. You actually have a lot of opportunities to get paid for the projects that you work on because we work with partners who pay for their content, and they also do freelance projects that we help them to get paid on. And they get a chance to learn if this is really for them before investing the big tuition money at the other places.
Samira, this worked out for you. You spent a year with this program with Sisler Create. What did you like about it?
Oh my gosh. I think there was so much to like. I came into the program not doing any film courses in high school because my school didn't offer them. But so I was super intimidated coming into it. But like in the span of the year, I learned how to use like cameras, how to edit, sound, like truly almost every kind of aspect of film. I got so many cool opportunities. It was so surreal for me to like have my documentary be on CBC. I got scholarship money for university that I'm using now. And I think also just being with a lot of peers like around my age who are interested in film and we're also pursuing the same thing was super helpful. Like even now we still help each other out and just really making really great connections in the industry from Sisler. I think, yeah, I loved all of that. Yeah.
What are you glad that you learned through the program before maybe you started your studies at U of W?
I think the thing I was most scared about was using cameras and editing because I think I only edited on iMovie before. So using like something industry standard like DaVinci Resolve, that was super cool. Like it's like I can just go in there and I have the skills to know how to use it. Small things like that you might not think of, like your ISO on your camera or like making sure everything looks good. I learned all of that at Sisler too. So I think those were the best skills that I learned at Sisler. Yeah.
What advice do you have for students who might be considering to apply for a program like this? I mean, you went into it without having any like film background. What's your advice?
I would say I think grade 12 is just kind of scary a little bit because you're making really big decisions. And even when I found out about the program, I was already enrolled at University of Winnipeg. So I just ended up like hearing all of the opportunities and looking at their website, I was like, wow, all of this is for free. I really have nothing to lose if I defer University of Winnipeg for a year. So I talked to my parents about it and they were also like, this just sounds so good. So they were encouraging me to apply for it and I applied for it and absolutely no regrets. I think I only gained things from the experience and not only just film things, but also life skills like managing a lot of different projects, being a professional filmmaker because you do get kind of hired for things too. So I would just say if you're thinking about it, just do it because you really have nothing to lose.
Samira, you have the basics, but now, as you're continuing your education, have you like seen a niche for yourself, or do you see a direction in the type of film that you want to pursue?
Yeah, I think coming into the program, I was like, oh, like I don't know what I want. Like I was like, I want to be a director, like question mark. But I think actually like learning how to do it and having the experience of directing multiple projects, I'm more confident in my answer, and I do want to be a director, writer, producer. So I think those experiences really showed me that, oh, I'm capable of doing this, and yeah, that's what I want to do.
A triple threat. I love it. Marcus, how can students apply?
So they can go to our website, sislercreate.com. And there's lots of information there about how to apply. There's also my email address as well as my teaching partner, Jonathan Dick Lyons. Both of our email addresses are on there so people can reach out to us if they have questions or they can apply directly through the website.
So you heard it there. Check out the website if you want to apply to be a part of the new class at Sisler Create. You were in conversation there, with CBC's Chloe Friesen on Up to Speed. Samira Abalor, graduate of Sisler Create's post-high school film program, and Marcus Fowler there, one of the program's instructors.
Jeans with a J versus jeans with a G.
My jeans are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. A Swiss watchmaker offends with a facial faux pas.
We sincerely apologize for any distress or misunderstanding.
And Connecticut declares they have better pizza than New York.
Forget about it.
Rage Marketing on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on demand on CBC Listen.
6:23, it's Wednesday morning. You might have heard on World Report, Manitoba's Premier Wab Kinew speaking around the meetings that are coming up with all of the premiers, hoping Churchill might get mentioned moving forward as one of the priorities for the Prime Minister. Still ahead on business this morning, a new report outlines how much Canada could gain by removing internal trade barriers, interprovincial ones. So we're going to get that data broken down from Crystalie Ramlakan coming up a little later this hour. Right now, it is time time to turn our attention to what is happening with some lawsuits. The world's social media giants are being sued by thousands of plaintiffs. As we've been reporting, among them school boards, parents, teens, they all accuse TikTok, Meta, Snap, and YouTube of being designed to be addictive. Now, this is not just one lawsuit, but a series, all being done in coordination. Luke Stark is here to take us through the allegations and what the cases could mean for the future of social media. He's an assistant professor in Western University's Faculty of Information and Media Studies. Good morning.
Good morning.
I understand you don't like the word addictive in this context. Can you help us with why?
I think one of the challenges with the word addiction is that it look, it's a medical term, and it sometimes causes us to think there's a really clear connection between what's being what's involved with addiction and what isn't. I think with cigarettes, right, which is one of the kind of an analogs that these folks have been talking about in these lawsuits, there's a pretty clear brain chemical connection between nicotine and addiction. With social media, look, I think very much that these systems are compelling, they're enthralling. Maybe we want to call that addiction, but I think the brain mechanism is a little bit less clear. What is clear, though, right, is that these systems have been designed to, pull in and hold users' attention. Right, that's something that these companies have been doing for decades. And so, if addiction is the way that works to describe it in court, that's fine.
It'll be interesting to see, though, whether or not that word somehow backfires in court, or whether it strengthens cases as the cases are made or not. Which is why I wanted to ask about it as well. Accusing social media sites of harming, I'll use that word, young people, is of course nothing new. Why do you think these cases are being brought now?
I think that, whether we use the term addictive or not, what we've now seen over the last certainly 10 and maybe even longer years is just how impactful these tools are. Look, it's a cliche. We're all totally mediated by these technologies and platforms. We've had a large number of kind of scandals and moments where it seems pretty clear that they are having deleterious social effects. And I think what's happening now is, first of all, there's been a number of leaks of internal company documents over the last 5 years, which has provided quite a lot of documentary evidence that companies are aware of how impactful these systems are, especially on children, and yet have continued to kind of support or have maybe even gone against internal research to keep these kind of compelling design features, on their site. So I think that's part of it. I think part of it has to do also with the fact that Donald Trump is back in office. Donald Trump is sort of the king of social media in terms of the impact of his politics on social media. And we saw during the first Trump administration a lot of concern about social media, as a sort of reaction to Trump 1. I think we're seeing that with Trump 2 as well.
There was a case here in 2024, a similar case in Canada, that is, brought in Ontario by school boards across the province there against the same group of companies. How does that case compare to the U.S. ones?
I think it's quite analogous. I mean, so this is a coalition of Ontario school boards that are claiming specifically, that these platforms have been deleterious to kids' education, right? That they've caused various harms. They're harming the quality of education in Ontario. There are sort of analogous suits coming as part of this bundle of cases in the States from school boards in California. A lot of the suits in the States are focused on individual plaintiffs. And so I think one practical thing we'll see, right, is that individual plaintiffs will sometimes settle. And actually a couple of the plaintiffs in the cases that are coming forward this week have now settled with some of the companies, with TikTok and with Snap. I think it's less likely the school boards will do that because, their interest is institutional, right? They're thinking about the way that these tools are affecting all the kids who are being taught in the board.
I'm wondering about approaches here. So obviously we've been reporting French lawmakers passing their bill yesterday banning social media for kids under 15. Australia was first before that. They are banning under 16. That went into effect last month. What do you make of the approaches, trying to change social media through restricting access versus through the courts?
Well, look, I think that one of the things to say here, right, is that the things about social media that impact kids impact all of us, right? These tools, these platforms are indeed designed to hold our attention, right? We've known that for many decades. And so improvements to or changes to their algorithms, to the way they're designed, the way that their interfaces are presented, that make them less compelling, less addictive, right? That's going to benefit kids and adults. So I would much rather see, a kind of design changes, whether that comes through lawsuits or whether that comes through kind of, legal action by governments, right? Bills. To change those designs. So I'd rather see that than age verification at this point. Partly because age verification brings with it a whole bunch of privacy questions and problems about what kind of data you're giving to companies about your real identity, about your age. And also because I think, it's not entirely clear this is going to solve any of the problems involved with these tools, right? People are going to, use their parents' accounts. They're going to find ways to get around a kind of baseline age ban. So I'd rather see these tools be changed for everybody and not restricted to just to minors.
All right, Luke, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much.
Luke Stark, Assistant Professor in Western University's Faculty of Information and Media Studies, looking at these cases, a whole bunch of media giants in court in the States. We're coming up to 6:30 here. Call us if you have a problem on the commute this morning, 788-3093. Let us know what it's like out there. We'll have your full regional forecast coming up here after your news at 6:30 from Manitoba. And then, as always, we'll check in with Chrisley Ramlakan, who is just joining us by Zoom this morning, as she does every day with our business report. Today, she's going to talk about a report that's outlining how much Canada could gain by removing internal trade barriers. So lots of curiosity around that. So we're going to hear more about that. In addition, UPS is planning to cut thousands of jobs this year. So we'll hear more about what is at stake there. And she has a story about AI firms likely thankful for a recent social media trend where people are posting pictures from 2016. Have you done this one from 10 years ago? We're going to get some analysis of the impact of that right after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is minus 22. The good news is our normal highs for this time of year are warming up. Now, minus 11 is normal. The bad news is we're still well below minus 11 as a normal. Our high today is going to be minus 19, again, with a risk of frostbite. Temporary residents are becoming a growing priority for Manitoba's provincial nominee program. Many arrived in Manitoba after the federal government started looking for help to address a post-pandemic labor shortage. Manitoba's trying to give them a path to permanent residency so they aren't forced to leave the country, leaving employers in the lurch. Provincial Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says it's smart to bring in more temporary workers, but she is also interested in bringing over more skilled workers.
Our best applicants traditionally in terms of retention have been from overseas with ties to Manitoba. So I am very eager to get back to that type of cohort, over time.
The province is also prioritizing nominee spots for newcomers who have arrangements with certain employers and municipalities. Well, Winnipeg is not alone, seeing a rise in extortion of small business owners. 5 people have been charged in a string of arson and extortion incidents at convenience stores over this past summer. Winnipeg police are looking for 2 other suspects who they say may have fled the province. Wade Deisman is a criminologist in British Columbia's Fraser Valley. He says extortion cases are on the rise right across the country. There's been an increase where he lives, and he's not surprised it's happening in Winnipeg, too.
There's a fairly strong consensus now amongst commentators, criminologists, statisticians that we are seeing a quite significant surge in the number of cases.
The Winnipeg incidents happened in July at locations on Selkirk, Spruce, Main Street, and Portage Avenue. At least 3 attempts were made to extort money from businesses in exchange for protection from arson. Federal budget cuts are creating more unease for workers at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg. The museum's budget is being reduced by $3.2 million over the next 3 years, part of government efforts to rein in spending. Marianne Ladoon at the Public Service Alliance of Canada hopes the museum will be transparent with employees.
We represent about over 100 employees at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and anytime we hear of budget cuts, it's extremely concerning and very alarming.
In a statement, the museum's CEO, Aisha Khan, tells CBC the museum will continue to deliver on its mandate. A spokesperson for CMHR says they don't have information at this time about whether the budget cuts will lead to job losses. Well, even as U.S. President Donald Trump talks about de-escalation in Minneapolis, there has been another disturbing incident as unrest there continues. Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was speaking when a man approached the podium, spraying her with a liquid. He used a syringe to spray that liquid and then was tackled to the ground. Omar continued speaking.
Here is the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong, and we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us.
It is not clear what the substance was. The suspect was arrested and charged with third-degree assault. You can hear the latest on the ICE protests in Minnesota, as well as other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The Victoria Hospital Foundation is fundraising to get new equipment for its surgical operating rooms. The foundation already has enough for the hospital's busiest OR. That's where they're replacing decade-old gear with state-of-the-art technology. Those changes will bring larger monitors with higher resolution to make it easier and more efficient for healthcare workers to operate. Hospital staff say it could lead to more surgeries being performed every year. Foundation CEO Jessica Miller says they're simultaneously gearing up for the emergency room to reopen next year.
They're actually already doing some superficial renovations in the urgent care currently, but we're looking at doing more physical adjustments, expanding the building, expanding the parking lot.
Miller says the foundation continues efforts to raise an additional $2 million to renovate the other remaining operating rooms. Well, Manitoba's Caitlin Laws is dominating so far at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Laws improved to 6-0 with a victory over Yukon, becoming the first team to secure a playoff spot at the Canadian Women's Curling Championship. Manitoba's Beth Peterson also on a roll in her pool, narrowly defeating PEI to stay perfect at 5-0. Well, at times it was sloppy, at times it was gritty, and at times you just had to cheer.
Velarde shoots and scores! That trio strikes again, Velarde, and it's 2-1 Winnipeg.
Gabe Velarde in the second period on TSN with his 20th goal of the season as the Winnipeg Jets break a losing skid, edging the Devils 4-3. Head coach Scott Arniel says he likes the grouping of Velarde, Scheifele, and Connor.
I know that line. I know when they're together, there's some chemistry, and we saw it on the first goal. And I really like Gabe's game tonight. I thought that he kind of gave us a spark with his work ethic, puck possession.
Arniel says that win gave the Jets 2 points his team badly needed. He says it also gives them momentum heading into the second game of this 4-game road trip, and that is in Tampa Bay, facing the Lightning tomorrow. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, Heather, you ready?
Okay.
We're trying to get calls and emails. Dear Jan letters, if you will, breaking up with January. Because we're thinking that this month goes on too long. How do you feel about January?
You know what? I just can't live in the dark.
Oh, that's good. I'm writing down that as a line. Right? Dear Jan, you're so negative. You hate my favorite sandals. Stop sabotaging my car. You look bright and beautiful, but I go out with you and you're cold. And you go on and on forever. It is you. It's not me.
That's hilarious.
So we're giving people a chance to write them, and we actually already got an entry this morning, which I'm really excited about. Thanks, Hev.
You're welcome. Now I feel bad for January. No one likes January.
Someone will write it in defense. There's always another person that loves it. But we are looking for the people that are done with it. So Jethro's done with it. Here's his breakup letter. Thanks, Jethro, by the way, watching our show on YouTube live this morning and sending this one in. It's on screen if you're watching. January, I'm leaving. I'm sick of the shoveling, the dead car battery, and the endless layers of wool. I deserve a life without static shocks, frozen nose hairs, and ice-covered windshields. Goodbye. Thanks, Jethro. Love it. Dear Jan letters, that's what we're looking for. If you want to write on YouTube or Facebook, you can, but we'd love to read your little letter out. 788-3205, 788-3205. All right, let's get into the forecast today. It's time to look at the regions at CBC.
I am sure the weather today will definitely inspire you to write a letter, because we're still going to be dealing with a cold day, biting wind chills that will be posing that risk of frostbite across most of the regions in the province today. In Winnipeg right now, we're sitting between minus 26 and minus 22, mostly cloudy outside. We won't get a lot of sunshine like yesterday. The temperature's just going to stay steady around that range all morning. Expect just a mix of sun and cloud in the mix sometime in the afternoon. A slight chance of flurries. Highs around minus 19. But watch out for the morning wind chills. It's going to feel close to minus 37. Take it easy. We'll see temperatures drop tonight about minus 27. In the Pembina Valley region, similar conditions, minus 21 there. Brandon is at minus 27. Dauphin is at minus 27. All regions will see highs around minus 19. Then we track it all the way to Gimli, minus 24 at this time. Cloudy conditions, a slim chance of flurries, also getting to minus 19 later, along with a freezing morning wind chill around minus 36. Then up north, we're seeing temperatures between minus 21 and minus 25. In Flin Flon right now, we're seeing temperatures around minus 22. Thompson is at minus 21 and Churchill is at minus 20. Around Tudula Lake, we're seeing minus 23 there, and most of the regions up north, we're already seeing light snow there. Churchill is going to get blowing snow today. So it's frigid across board, and we're going to see wind chills in the valleys of minus 36, minus 37 across the regions. Winnipeg right now, we are around minus 24.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's going on in the traffic situation. Corey, anything up?
Yes, I got a call from Zach on the commuter line. Nairn closed both ways right now between Foster and Kent. He didn't see exactly what was going on, but he saw a bunch of emergency crews have closed off that section of Nairn. So that's Nairn between Foster and Kent, both ways. Of course, our news desk is going to be looking into, we got some calls out about what exactly is going on there. But for now, you may want to avoid Nairn altogether. You said a lot of people are taking Talbot to get around, so it might be slow going on Talbot as well this morning. That's the biggest issue we've seen so far. But if you have updates on that or anything else you're seeing out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Let's get to business news. Crystalie Ramlakan joins us now on Zoom. Hi there.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So a new report outlining how much Canada could gain by removing internal trade barriers is out. What does the data tell us?
Yes, so the economy could gain nearly 7% or $210 billion in real GDP over a gradual period by fully removing trade barriers between the provinces and territories. And that's according to a new report from the International Monetary Fund. So the report estimates on average, regulation-related barriers are the equivalent of a 9% tariff nationally. And that would-be tariff is even higher in service sectors such as healthcare and education at more than 40%, where professional mobility between provinces is highly regulated. While some industries have been pushing for the removal of barriers for years, the movement really gained wider recognition after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, forcing governments to look inward for more trade opportunities. So some provinces such as Ontario and Manitoba have already signed bilateral agreements. And in November, the federal government and the provinces and territories also signed an agreement to drop trade barriers on most goods except alcohol and food. However, services, which make up the vast majority of internal trade costs, were largely exempt.
And we'll hear what the premiers are going to say in their meetings coming up. And also Premier Wab Kinew is going to be in an interview on The Current this morning as well, I'll just mention. Next, let's look at another business story. UPS plans to cut thousands of jobs this year. What else is in the plans?
Yes, so UPS expects to slash 30,000 positions this year and shut down another 24 facilities. The world's largest package delivery company says it is reducing low-profit deliveries for its largest customer and growing rival Amazon. So they say they just don't make enough money off these millions of Amazon deliveries. Now, last year, the company also eliminated 48,000 jobs and closed operations at 90 33 buildings, saving billions. And the company just reported higher quarterly profit and is predicting slightly higher revenue in the coming year. The company says the workforce reductions will be accomplished through attrition and voluntary buyouts for drivers, so no layoffs right now. But UPS says these cuts do not impact positions here in Canada. Also in the news today, though, Amazon is also planning to eliminate about 16,000 corporate jobs in its latest push to reduce bureaucracy, it says. This is the second round of mass job cuts since last October, and it also coincides with the company's push to invest heavily in artificial intelligence.
And why are artificial intelligence firms likely thankful for the recent social media trend where people are posting these photos from 2016, 10 years ago?
Yes. So experts say the high volume of public images is a gold mine for anyone needing data to train AI models. And their clear date labels make it even easier to teach the technology how people, places, and things change over time. So AI firms typically have to buy or collect data to train their models that underpin their software. But with people dumping their images online and labeling them, the time-consuming task of going through the data is made much more efficient and affordable. So participants ranging from ordinary users to celebrities mostly treated the throwback as harmless fun. But, some technology experts see it as a reminder that, once you post anything online, it's really beyond our control how it's used. Marcy, have you seen people doing this?
Oh, all over the place. And I almost did it myself, but I just get so worried about exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, it's enough if people have current images of me. Now, could they, as you're nodding to, gain more data, change my face over the years? Yeah, I get worried.
I know. I mean, it was fun to see, the throwback to the 2016 makeup trends and the fashion and the skinny jeans. But I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I don't think I need to put it out there for everyone to see how exactly I've aged over the last 10 years, where exactly I was there then and then where I am now.
All right, Crystal Lee. Well, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Crystal Lee Ramlakan live with our business news on CBC. 6:45 minus 22 in Winnipeg. We're going to be around minus 19 today, so we won't move much. We will have increasing cloud, though, around noontime, early this morning, and a chance of flurries as well. Well, we've been celebrating the Juno nominees, and why not? Out of Manitoba, William Prince, Sebastian Gaskin, Begonia. But there's also Hayley Jean Penner on the list, and you may not know the name because a lot of her work's behind the scenes. She's nominated for Songwriter of the Year. She did grow up here in Winnipeg. She lives in LA now, and if the name rings a bell, you might know her dad is beloved children's artist Fred Penner. She's written, though, for some really big names. So the Chicks, also Lily Allen. Her work, though, co-writing a song for this next big name artist, help her earn the current Juno nod. This is Teddy Swims with Small Hands.
My whole life I've been waiting for someone to fix this broken man. Every moment a twist of fate, but it made me who I am. I'd be lying if I told you that I knew I had to lie before there was you. But these small hands, they don't care where I come from, where I've been. Oh, I never loved myself until the day I held these small hands. Ooh. There was no getting ready, but I am glad I'm overwhelmed. The way you look back at me, so I can finally see myself in your mother's eyes. It's like they were made for you, but I can't lie. I've got so much work to do. These small hands, they don't care where I come from, from, where I've been. Oh, I never loved myself until the day I held these small hands. I'm not sure where I'd be if not for these small hands. Don't care where I'm from, where I've been. Never loved myself until the day I held these small hands.
Wow, huh? Teddy Swims and Small Hands, co-written by Haley Jean Penner, who's nominated for Songwriter of the Year at the Junos. The announcement coming yesterday. She grew up here in Winnipeg. It is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. You're on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks so much for joining us on this last Wednesday of February as we get through the month. Well, yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Leader of the Opposition, Pierre Poilievre, had quite a debate in the House of Commons for the first time this year, back and forth from the start of question period. Poilievre criticizing food prices, pushing for a motion that he calls the Canada Sovereignty Act. Carney focusing on his government's collaborations with provinces and the GST rebate top-up his party announced earlier in the week. Have a listen.
Mr. Speaker, if Canadians could eat the Prime Minister's photo op, there wouldn't be an empty stomach in the country. He's had lots of meetings. He's had signing ceremonies. He's had grand announcements and new bureaucracies. But what he hasn't delivered is real results. His biggest promise was that he was going to make food prices affordable. Since that time, food inflation has doubled, the worst in the G7. It's the result of his hidden taxes, the inflation tax from his deficits, the fuel taxes on farmers, fertilizers, and farm equipment. Why won't he, instead of trying to hide the price tag, why won't he get rid of the cost?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, here's something we don't hide. Here's something we're proud of. Over 140,000 new jobs net created since the summer. More than the United States. Here's something else. Wages rising every single month of this government faster than the rate of inflation. Here's something else. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We put in place a national food program for 400,000 kids, making it permanent. Yesterday, we announced a benefit for 12 million Canadians, $1,800. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have never had it so good that 2.2 million of them are lined up at food banks. One of the reasons is that we can't get our resources to market. Now, while the Prime Minister, we worked in collaboration to give him exceptional powers to get things done. Instead, he spent the time on photo ops, signing ceremonies, re-announcing projects that had long ago been approved. His new bureaucracy, the projects office, has not approved a single new project. So why won't he get out of the way and accept our plan by passing the Canadian Sovereignty Act today?
So there you were hearing Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre debating Prime Minister Mark Carney in the House of Commons on Tuesday about this suite of affordability measures that was announced. Now, if you look at one aspect of what was announced, the centerpiece by the Liberals is called the Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit. They claim it will boost what families and individuals receive through GST rebate over the next 5 years, or it will rather. And my next guest actually is an advocate for this, and she's one of the experts that's been pushing for something similar for years. Shaimin Yassin is a senior research director at the Institute for Research on Public Policy, and she joins us via Zoom next. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
So why do you think this will work? What did you make of the announcement?
So overall, I made from the announcement, I found it a positive step. The announced groceries and essentials benefit is not as much as what we recommended in the research that we did for the Affordability Action Council, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. What it does is that it enhances the GST HST credit, which our analysis has shown as a vehicle to be one of the most effective tools to get the targeted cash transfers to the lower income households. quickly and with low admin burden. Now, why it matters, because since the pandemic, we've seen overall prices in general have been up by about 20 to 21%, while the food purchased from stores and shelter are up closer to 30%. And what this benefit, the announced specifically, is trying to cover for is the gap between the food inflation and the headline inflation, and hence provide some relief to those under strain. What I need to note, though, is that it won't solve food insecurity, for instance, on its own. Food insecurity is fundamentally driven by the financial constraints the lower income households are facing, the inadequate incomes that do not cover the full basket of basic needs they need to have. So not just food, but also housing, transportation, energy, and other essentials they need to take care of.
That you have to pay for to live. I just want to compare something to what you said here. So we are hearing politically, at least from the opposition, I mean, their line is that this sounds good on paper, but it's not even going to really help with one trip to the grocery store. You did start by saying this is a positive step, but not what we were calling for, like not enough. If you do look at that Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, what might have been enough? Is there a number that you were working with that you were hoping they might agree to, or are you referring to the income numbers?
So perhaps, I mean, the numbers we had recommended is based on the basket of essentials and basic needs the lower income households need to cover. But perhaps an easier way of looking at it is unpacking how this credit, the announced credit, will work. And then I could give you some estimates of what we have recommended for. So basically, if one already receives the GST, HST credit, it would build on that system. There is no program to apply for. It's targeted for the low and modest income households, and it's delivered through the tax system. Now, the government, what they announced is that they're going to be boosting this credit by 25% for the next 5 years. And in 2026 in particular, they will add a one-time 50% top-up. So to put this in numbers, a family of 4 with modest income could receive up to $1,890 this year. So that's about an additional support of about $805 from what they are already receiving. And similarly, a single person could get up to $950 this year compared to $543 to what they're receiving. So our research was seeking to cover the entire basket of essentials. And it could, for a single adult, we had recommended up to $1,800 per year.
Got it. So you were recommending $1,800 in total, and it's $950 in total. Yes, okay. So it's about you were recommending double.
Almost, and that's compared to the first year, which includes a top-up. For subsequent years, it's going to be less, a lower benefit.
Yep. So tell me, moving forward, how hopeful you are that the government will look at some of those other measures to help families that you're talking about that are critical in terms of basic income or in terms of helping with housing supports.
So it has been encouraging that we see that the government had situated this benefit within a broader integrated package that included not just measures for longer term food price policies, but also including housing affordability, energy efficiency, and obviously the food system measures. So they had announced, for instance, to make the National Food Schools program permanent. They had announced to support the Competition Bureau, the unit price labeling, and other measures. But what I could think of also is we could think of 2 buckets that the government could focus on. There are short-term measures that could provide some relief and immediate relief, not a solution to the root cause. And that includes the benefit that was announced, but also one need to think about the access of the benefit, for instance, how to make sure that people can actually receive those tax-delivered benefits. Mm-hmm. We've seen that the government had done some measures related to automatic tax filing to reach the non-filers, for instance, but also the federal government needs to coordinate with the provinces who shouldn't claw back benefits through their social assistance rules. Now, on the longer term, they need to think, obviously, of the other measures, such as the housing affordability.
And the bigger picture things.
And the bigger picture, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Shaima. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Marcy. Appreciate it.
That is Shaima Yassin. She's a Senior Research Director at the Institute for Research on Public Policy. Still ahead.
There was always that struggle behind the scenes off the field to improve the game for the next generation.
An Olympian with the Canadian women's national soccer team, but a special screening of a panel discussion, a film rather, and a panel discussion that will happen tonight in our community over at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights that has to do with gender equity in sport. Also in the next hour, the WSO performing with CBC's Murdoch Mysteries, Your Chance to Go, super fun contest, and in our medical column, a burst appendix usually meant surgery in the past, but growing evidence says maybe antibiotics is also an option. So stay tuned. We're going to hear more about that. There's a fire on Nairn, close both directions, Chester to Kent, 788-3093. That's my traffic note that's just been popped up on screen for me. And it is minus 22 in Winnipeg right now. Let's go to Heather Wells for other details and other information and headlines.
Good morning. Well, immigration cuts are forcing Manitoba to refocus its provincial nominee program. Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says the program's been devoting more spots to temporary residents. That's at the expense of skilled workers from overseas who already have ties to Manitoba. We'll hear why coming up. And the surgical unit at Victoria Hospital in Winnipeg is getting equipment upgrades expected to improve safety and some surgical wait times. Those stories and more in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Your CBC national and international news is next on World Report. Stay with us 1 minute to 7 o'clock on your Wednesday.
On the Current.
So what do you say, Premier Ford? I think it tastes better when we work together as part of Team Canada.
Canada's premiers meet in Ottawa today. Manitoba's Wab Kinew joins us to talk about what he's looking for and how to bridge divides, like his tiff with the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, over Crown Royal whiskey that's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Center for Strategic and International Studies says as many as 1.8 million people have been killed or injured during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. think tank estimates 1.2 million of them are Russian forces. But Ukrainian troops have also suffered major losses, and so has a Canadian man who signed up to fight in Ukraine. David Rouser was accidentally shot in the head while his team was trying to clear Russian positions. As Briar Stewart reports, he's now waiting to return home.
I'm missing a piece of my skull right here.
David Rouser points to a grayish dent on the left side of his head where a bullet struck him in November. On the back of his shoulder, a large scar marks where a second bullet tore through. The incident was recorded by a camera he was wearing. It began as his small team approached a Russian bunker in the Donetsk region. He called out for them to surrender. When they didn't, he opened fire. But in the chaos, he too became a target.
What are you doing? One of the guys on my team, he was new to the team, and I don't know why, but he mistook me for a Russian and shot me once in the head and once in the arm.
In the moments after, his crew tried to stop the bleeding.
Oh, please don't die.
He was eventually evacuated and spent 2 months in the hospital. He will soon return to Canada. Rouser didn't have any military experience before, but he spoke Russian, as he lived in both Russia and Ukraine for several years as a child.
It's a little bit of a miracle I got shot in the head and I'm able to sit here and talk to you guys. So.
He still needs one more surgery to put a titanium plate in his head and is considering an offer from his brigade to come back and work as a trainer.
I wish I could say, peace could happen tomorrow. I don't think it's going to, obviously. Depends a lot on other world leaders. Trump is all over the place.
It's not clear how many Canadians are fighting in Ukraine, but more than a dozen have been killed, either in combat or while serving as a paramedic or aid worker. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Israel is holding a funeral for the last hostage recovered from Mourners line the street as the coffin of Ran Gavili passes by. It is draped in an Israeli flag. The 24-year-old police officer was killed while fighting Hamas militants during the October 7, 2023 attacks. Now that his remains are back in Israel, attention is turning to what comes next in Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will reopen the Rafah border crossing in both directions, but only foot traffic will be allowed. Italy is just days away from hosting the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympic Games, but news that ICE agents will be in the country is stirring political and public anger. And while officials say the agents will only serve as diplomatic security, others say that does not ease their concerns. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
It's not the kind of ICE Olympic organizers here in Italy were keen to see feature in the Milano Cortina Games next month. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, says its agents will help protect U.S. delegations at the Winter Olympics to back up the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service. The announcement has triggered outrage and political confusion in Italy, with Interior Minister Matteo Piantadosi saying ICE will never set foot in Italy, contradicting the country's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani, who said if ICE comes, they'll collaborate as part of security at an international event. But the announcement sparked protests from opposition MPs in Lombardy, the region where some of the events will be held, and has alarmed ordinary Italians amid outrage over violent images from ICE operations. We absolutely do not want them. They're Nazis and fascists, says this woman in Rome. Italian officials insist all Olympic security will remain under Italian authority, but protests are already planned for opening day in Milan. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
There are signs support is falling for the Trump administration's immigration policy. Even U.S. President Donald Trump appears to be ready to adjust his approach. As the CBC's Mike Crawley reports, recent polls suggest even some Trump supporters are questioning his tactics.
We had a horrible border, the worst border we've ever had, ever.
U.S. President Donald Trump has changed the leadership of his immigration enforcement push, but still stands firm on the goal.
We can't lose sight of the fact that we have to take murderers and drug lords and people.
Trump won his way back into the White House on a promise of mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. But several recent polls suggest growing concern among Americans that the crackdown is too broad and the tactics for handling protests against it are misguided.
Profoundly negative for Trump and the Republicans.
Doug Sosnick is a veteran political strategist in Washington.
This is blocking any positive narrative that the Trump administration is trying to put out about what they're doing on behalf of the American public.
One poll, conducted before federal agents shot and killed a man in Minneapolis last weekend, found that 1/3 of Americans who voted for Trump in 2024 don't support how he's implementing the deportation campaign. Walter Olson is with the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank. He's critical of the administration's approach.
Name the area of the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution, and by now they've probably found some way to trample it.
The political fallout could come quickly. Senate Democrats are threatening to block a funding bill unless the immigration enforcement tactics are changed. That could mean another federal government shutdown at the end of this week. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Washington.
The Bank of Canada will announce its latest interest rate policy later this morning. Canada's economy is weak and consumer confidence is low, but the central bank has said lowering borrowing costs is not the answer. The CBC senior business correspondent, Peter Armstrong, has more.
The Canadian economy has slowed in 7 of the last 12 months. The trade war has eroded confidence and clobbered trade-sensitive industries. With the renewal of the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement looming this summer, businesses and households are worried. But Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says there's only so much that monetary policy or interest rate changes can do.
It can't target specific sectors. It can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminum, steel, autos. It can't help companies find new markets. It can't help companies reconfigure their supply chains.
In other words, he thinks Canada needs more trade deals and higher productivity, not lower interest rates. Meanwhile, Desjardins Deputy Chief Economist Randall Bartlett says the Canadian economy will continue to struggle this year.
We're expecting that Q4 data is going to be very, very weak in terms of GDP growth. Like, we're expecting something in the range of 0 to 0.5% annualized, so just barely in positive territory.
Bartlett says that should gradually improve over the course of this year, but with so much uncertainty, the Bank of Canada will want to leave itself some wiggle room in case things get worse, not better. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
It was a council meant to help improve the lives of women in the Canadian military, but half of its members have now resigned. The women say they were supposed to be advising the federal government, but as the CBC's Kayla Hounsell tells us, they say they're not able to do their jobs.
It was a very toxic environment.
Jessica Miller served her country for 22 years as a medic in the Canadian Armed Forces. She then felt compelled to serve in another way, volunteering with a group created by the federal government to help deal with gender inequity in the military. Now she's resigned from the Women Veterans Council, along with nearly half of the other members.
Due to the inability to make any change, any transparency in the government, the frustration of not knowing why we're on this committee and what we're doing, being gaslit.
A 2024 report found the specific needs of women veterans were often neglected. The Trudeau government said it would respond to all 42 recommendations, including creating the Women Veterans Council. Miller says things began to change with the new government. Reporters tried to ask Veterans Affairs Minister Jill McKnight about this.
Minister, why are you listening to them, Minister? Come back and talk to us, Minister. Come on.
But she wouldn't stop to talk. Opposition Veterans Affairs critic Blake Richards did.
And it's pretty ironic when the very council that's put in charge of ensuring there's action is now saying we're being treated like pawns here.
The minister did provide a statement thanking the women, saying she continues to welcome their advocacy in other ways. Miller says the minister can count on that. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Sweets Corner, Nova Scotia.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report News Anytime. CBCNews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. It's Wednesday. You're writing letters, Dear January, or short for Dear Jan. Why you want to break up with a month that feels like it's 68 days long. We're going to read some of your entries from this morning. Super fun. Speaking of entries, we have tickets to give away to Murdoch Mysteries and the WSO special performance. Great night out in Winnipeg. So we'll find out about the answer to yesterday's mystery clue that we played. So that's coming up also. Plus, to serious news, could we see Winnipeg's downtown population double in 25 years? That's the hope from Centre Venture. We're going to talk to them about some announcements this week to renovate heritage buildings into housing and more. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we'll hear from an Olympian with Canada's women's national soccer team about a special documentary that will screen tonight in Winnipeg about gender equity in sport. Diana Matheson's going to join us, standing by on Zoom, in fact, so really looking forward to talking to her. Right now, first, let's check in with Heather Wells, who's here with our local headlines from Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Canadian criminologist says extortion cases are on the rise across the country. Yesterday, Winnipeg police announced charges for 5 people in a string of arson and extortion cases at several convenience stores last July. 2 others are still wanted. Criminologist Wade Deisman says crimes like these are increasing. He says these recent arrests in Winnipeg are a big win. And a union for more than 100 workers at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hopes a budget cut does not lead to job losses. The museum's budget is being reduced by $3.2 million over the next 3 years as Ottawa reins in spending. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
And Abby, the weather today, what's up?
We're waking up to that frigid conditions across the regions this morning, Marcy. We're looking at cloudy skies down south. Winnipeg sitting between -22 and -26. We will see periodic clouds. We're heading to a high of, let's say, -19 under some sunny conditions later this afternoon. We do have a slim chance of flurries in the forecast. And if you're stepping out this morning, the wind chill is going to feel like -36, -37. And that's the range across board. Up north, we're seeing temperatures in the -20s, also warming up close to -19. Down south, we're seeing temperatures around -27 in Brandon at this time and -28 in Dauphin. We will see highs close to -19. For Winnipeg right now, we are sitting between -25 and -26.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for the commute with Corey Funk.
Yes, right now the biggest issue is Nairn closed both ways between Chester and Kent due to a fire, says the city. We also got a call about it earlier. Closed both ways. You want to avoid that area altogether. If you can, emergency crews are on scene. As well, northbound Pembina, just past Bison. Just got a call from Jill. Abby noticed it as well this morning. There was a car there yesterday, but it's still there in the left lane, northbound Pembina at Bison. And some kind citizen has found some pylons somewhere, I guess, and put pylons around it, but it still kind of sneaks up on you, she said. So heads up, keep right if you're heading northbound Pembina towards Bison, because there's a car just sitting there with no lights on. If you do see anything else, so you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, Corey's actually going to stick around because we're doing something fun. I'm about to read listeners this morning and how you're feeling. We thought we'd capture the mood. It's Wednesday. It's still January. We have like a full week left. And I know a lot of people say this month feels like it just goes on forever. So we asked you to write breakup letters.
Dear January, I just want to go out sometimes, but you never let me. And honestly, I was hoping my kids would eventually warm up to you, but they just haven't, even with the snowsuit on. It's time to move on.
Robin Blecker says, Dear Jan, quit stalking me. Becky Letts says, I'm tired of you running hot and cold and always making me lose my footing. I'm choosing me, Jan. I'm moving on with my life. Neil Colligan says, Jan, no offense, but this dry thing has me pining for a pint. And finally, Tyler Johnston writes in a quote from Bruce Coburn. Jan, when your lover's in a dangerous time, sometimes you're made to feel as if your love's a crime. Nothing worth having comes without some kind of fight, Jan. Gotta kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight. You guys are having fun with this. I'm loving it, I gotta say. Write your breakup letter to Dear January, 788-3205 if you want to say it on the listener line. All right, super fun stuff. Let's go to something else, totally different. Women's soccer and Canadian soccer are taking center stage tonight in Winnipeg. Over at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, there's a special screening of a documentary and then a panel conversation about women's rights, gender equity for pay, and other rights and the future of professional sport in Canada. So this film being showed is called The Pitch. It captures the moment Canadian women's soccer finally changed with the creation of the Northern Super League, Canada's first professional women's soccer league.
To return home for our Olympic champions.
The United States, Sweden, France, China, Australia, Germany, Japan, England, Italy, all have professional leagues. But our home and native land still doesn't have one. After winning the gold, the outside world was like, okay, here it comes, like a women's professional soccer league. But we, as players, knew that it was still going to be a fight.
Women's soccer players are never just fighting for money.
That was part of the trailer for The Pitch, which screens tonight in Winnipeg. To tell us more about it, Diana Matheson's joining us via Zoom. You know her. She's the founder and chief growth officer for the Northern Super League, two-time Olympic bronze medalist, famously scored that winning goal in the 92nd minute against France to secure the bronze medal in the London 2012 games. I loved watching that. She is in Winnipeg, though. She's going to be part of the panel conversation, so alongside Winnipegger Desiree Scott. Hi, Diana.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. So when you look back at this time, and this documentary was obviously being filmed, what sticks with you about the joy of having this league come, but as we heard at the end there, the reality of what you as a player knew this was going to be, was going to mean?
Yeah, it's the stress, I think, maybe sticks with me. It was absolutely the most stressful and rewarding 3 years of my life. And it's a gift in a lot of ways to have this, an incredible filmmaker like Michelle Hoser come in and make a documentary that kind of captures those 3 years forever. I've always got this keepsake, but yeah, definitely watching it back, I was just, me and my wife and those that were working on it were reminded of the stress and the uncertainty that we were living in for 3 years as we tried to chase this crazy dream.
I was reading actually some coverage of the documentary and the creation of it. You mentioned Hoser, and she was saying she wasn't necessarily a soccer fan, but she feels this is about justice. That's what this documentary is actually about. How does that sit with you when you think about the meaning of what you fought for?
Yeah, I really hope a lot of Winnipeggers will check it out tonight. It's about a lot of things. It's for sure about justice. It's about equity. I was really happy she ended up telling not just the story of, us in the making of this league. She ended up telling the story of Canadian women's soccer and all the women that have fought for that program to develop, and every generation leaving it better for the generation. And out of that, you get a story of women in so many industries. I think they can relate to this. I've had women that work in tech or nursing or teaching or media come up and say they've, shared experiences. They can really relate to it. And right now, too, it's a story about believing in investing in Canada. Like, we could have gone an easier route in a lot of ways of just having a team or two enter the U.S. Women's Pro League. But that would be kind of underselling what we could do here in Canada, where we have one of the best women's soccer countries in the world, one of the biggest player pools, one of the biggest fan bases. And the way global soccer works is everyone has their own league. That's how you develop players. That's how you develop talent. And we just felt like a couple leagues in the U.S., it might be the easier road, but it wasn't the right road and what's right for Canada. And so these days, with everything going on, it's a story, too, about believing in and investing in Canada and the success that can happen when we do that.
Tell me a little bit about how hard it was to stand up at that time, because even though something might be niggling at any one of us as a woman, to actually stand up in that moment and be the voice of something bigger that everyone knows needs those voices on those stages in those moments. Were there discussions, between you and I'm thinking about Christine St. Clair, of course, or was it just something you naturally were like, no, we're doing this as we push to make sure that this is done the right way for women?
Yeah, it'd been a discussion for years on the women's national team. Like we've known for the last 10, 15 years, we need to build a league here. And the way women's soccer has grown internationally really started with national teams. And then the rest of the world's been investing in their pro leagues, their pro teams really heavily the last 5, 10 years. And we were at the point in a women's World Cup where there's 32 countries competing. There was only 2 left that didn't have a league, and it was Canada and it was Haiti. So we were all aligned. Something needed to get built. And then, I went back to school for 2 years after I retired, just trying to get ready I figured someone must build something. I want to be ready for that. I'm going to go get a business degree. I'm going to do a soccer program through UEFA and be ready for whatever starts. And it was through that program saw that no one was working on anything, and we were going to take on giving this thing a push to get it started, because there were just giant arrows in this business, in this global industry where, again, this is something that hasn't been treated like a business prior to 5 years ago. We all grew up with the myths and biases. No one watches women's sport. Women's sport doesn't make money. False. But there was no data before to disprove it. That was a problem. You couldn't really disprove the people that would say that. And finally, the business was being invested in enough, and you could point to the numbers and say, see, if you put it on TV, the audience grows. See, if you buy a franchise for a couple $100,000, like in the US in 2013, their franchises are now worth $100 million. So you actually had data to make this argument, and the industry is growing so quickly. Globally, there was just giant arrows saying you have to build now in Canada or we're going to be too late to start. So we had to give it a push.
I was going to ask you how you're feeling after the inaugural 2025 season. Obviously, it's already growing in terms of teams and cities.
Yeah, year one, we had a lot of benchmarks we wanted to hit for a brand new startup league that has to compete against all these other, dozens of other women's pro leagues around the world for talent, for fans. And we hit the targets we wanted to in year one. We finished the year with about average 4,000 fans per game, which sounds small, right? But that actually puts us third in the world for average attendance. So we're a really great spot to build our fan base year over year. Our teams and league total did about $30 million in revenue. We drove $30 million in revenue, which puts us about 8th in the world already. So Canada's just getting started. You can see it already. We're an incredible country for women's sport, for women's athletes, and it's a fantastic foundation to build. And like you said, we want to expand. We've announced we're going to add one team in 2027 and then likely grow to about 12 teams across Canada. And we want to have another team in Central to West Canada. So Winnipeg would definitely be a target. And, Desiree Scott, Winnipeg hero, has just retired. And I can tell you it's pretty dangerous to have a retired women's national team player who's looking for a job at home. So I wouldn't be surprised if Winnipeg gets a team in 27 just based on that.
We like hearing that and enjoy tonight's panel discussion and screening of the pitch. Thank you very much for your time this morning on CBC. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Looking forward to seeing the crowd tonight and chatting with some people.
Diana Matheson with us live via Zoom this morning, founder of the Northern Super League, Olympian with the Canadian national soccer team. So tonight at the CMHR, 6 o'clock, it's free. You have to register first to make sure you get a seat. That's at humanrights.ca, and it is followed by a panel discussion. Well, we want to slide in a couple of minutes of William Prince now, who was nominated yesterday for a Juno.
Hear the sound as it rings and it pulls me away, further from the country, like I'm dead when you finally get to the city, further from the country. Only stories in this town, there's no fortune to be found. Ain't no use in shaking hands, let's just leave it as it stands. Just do what you came here to do, and I'll see you when I see you again. Hear the sound as it rings and it pulls me away, further from the country, like I'm dead when you finally get to the city, further from the country. There's a headlight in my lane, something else in this train, familiar stranger in my bed, same old ringing in my head. Just do what you came here to do, and I'll see you when I see you again. Hear the sound as it rings and it pulls me away, further from the country.
That's the name of the title track, Further from the Country, that gained Manitoba's William Prince a Juno nomination for Contemporary Roots Album of the Year. Juno nods announced yesterday. You can check it out on cbc.ca/Manitoba. Number of artists from here making the list. Next, let's talk morning sports. Claude Vegas in for Scott this morning. Hello to you.
Good morning, Marcy. Nice to be back with you.
Thanks for being with us. So Jets got a much-needed road win last night.
Yeah, for sure, Marcy. Jets were on the road in New Jersey last night looking for just their second win in their past 4 games and kept the game tight until they soared with 3 second-period goals en route to a 4-3 victory. Mark Scheifele leading the way with a goal and a helper. Here's head coach Scott Arniel.
You're not even going to let me just enjoy this one for, okay. You know what? Just need to be consistent. It has to come back. That game we played tonight, it wasn't a perfect 60, but a lot of those things that we did, whether it's shot block and wall plays, recognizing the right time to do things with the puck, that has to be constant, especially against Tampa in their building. They're one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the league, so we got to make sure that we're doing all those things correct.
Yeah, they head to Tampa for a date with the Red Hot Lightning. That's Thursday night down in Florida.
Round robin play continues over at the Scotties.
Yeah, Marcy, so two teams remain undefeated at this year's Scotties Tournament of Hearts being played in Mississauga, Ontario, and I think you guys know who that is. Both Manitoba team entries have yet to taste defeat. Caitlin Law skips one of the foursomes that has already qualified for the playoff round, sporting a perfect 6-0 record. Beth Peterson is the other Manitoba skip. She's undefeated at 5-0. Now, Law's lead is Kristen Gordon, who says her team is rounding into shape at the right time.
It feels really good. I think that we've been able to put processes in place to kind of get us here, just like even learning from each shot and like not getting down on each other or like ourselves. So I think the hard work and the processes that we have put in place are just kind of coming together, and it feels really good.
And Laws' foursome faces the Northwest Territories in Draw 15 today. Peterson's crew plays one of the Alberta entries in Draw 14.
Yeah, we like to curl in Manitoba. And finally, they're down to the Final Four down under at the Australian Open now.
Yeah, Marcy, the Australian Open is in fact down to the Final Four on both sides of the draw. The latest coming this morning is men's second-seeded Jannik Sinner beat American Ben Shelton in straight sets, advancing to the semis. He'll face Novak Djokovic, a 10-time winner down under, and top-seeded Carlos Alcaraz and Alexander Zverev will play in the other semi. On the women's side, American Jessica Pegula advanced to the semis in straight sets, while Elena Rybakina stunned number 2 Iga Swiatek. Now, Pegula was asked about Coco Gauff's antics the other day after she lost her match. She got caught on camera smashing her racket in the players' area leading into the dressing room.
This year, it feels even worse. Areas that you don't think someone's kind of watching you. It's in every single hallway. You're just kind of going about your day, and to feel like someone's constantly filming you. I mean, I saw online people were like zooming in on players' phones and stuff like that. Like, that's so unnecessary. It's really an invasion of privacy. I mean, literally, the only time you're not being recorded is when you're going to shower and go to the bathroom.
Meanwhile, as far as Canadians, Gabriela Dabrowski of Ottawa is the lone remaining Canadian. She and her partner, Luisa Stephanie of Brazil, are into the women's doubles semis, which go tonight.
All right, thanks, Claude.
Okay, Marcy, have a great day.
You too. That's Claude Fay in for Scott Ricker with sports this morning. We have had a problem, Nairn closed both ways between Foster and Kent. Now, that might be resolved by now, but can you call Corey and let us know? 788-3093. We understand that it likely is not. But you can update what's happening with backups in that area or any other problems on your commute. Let us know here at CBC. Still ahead, you could be heading out in style on February 7th to see CBC's Murdoch Mystery with the WSO and their special night of music and watching the show and hearing the soundtrack, but you have to be able to solve mysteries. That's our contest this week. So we'll play yesterday's clue again. We will tell you who has been entered if you got the mystery right, and then we have another chance for you to enter after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's minus 22. We will warm up just slightly today. Increasing clouds, a chance of flurries, and a high of minus 19. A Canadian criminologist says extortion cases are on the rise across the country. Yesterday, Winnipeg police announced charges for 5 people in a string of arson and extortion cases at several convenience stores this past July. 2 others are still wanted. Criminologist Wayne Deisman says crimes like these are increasing across the country. He calls the recent arrests in Winnipeg a big win, adding they may help deter this often underreported crime.
Because people don't have a kind of chain of evidence, they're loath to kind of report it because they're not sure they're going to be protected if they do. So having CCTV footage, that kind of thing, or making their premises more, difficult to subject to those kinds of attacks can help in terms of increasing resistance.
Last month, Manitoba announced a $2,500 rebate to help small businesses increase security systems. Deisman says the rebates, plus a police campaign, could help reduce extortion in the city. Immigration cuts are forcing Manitoba to refocus its provincial nominee program. Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says the program has been devoting more spots to temporary residents. That at the expense of skilled workers from overseas who already have ties to Manitoba. Marcelino says that group has a higher retention rate, but the province is focusing on temporary workers because there's lots of them after Ottawa loosened restrictions amid a post-pandemic labor shortage. Rhys Pactacan is an immigration lawyer in Winnipeg. He says Manitoba's right to create a pathway to permanent residency for temporary workers.
To some extent, you have to say if these people are making a contribution to our economy, if these people are making a contribution to our community, why should we prioritize others who aren't even here for people who are already here and contributing?
The province is also prioritizing nominee spots for newcomers who have arrangements with certain employers and municipalities. While fire has closed Nairn Avenue between Chester and Kent this morning, fire crews were called to the blaze at a business in the 800 block of Nairn just before 2:30 this morning. They arrived to heavy flames. Aerial ladders were brought in because it was not safe to enter the building. No one has been hurt. The city says the fire crews are expected to be on the scene throughout the morning and are asking people to avoid that area. So once again, Nairn Avenue is closed between Chester and Kent. Canada's premiers huddle in the nation's capital today and tomorrow with the economy, affordability and trade high on the agenda. Today is set aside for the premiers to meet with each other, and tomorrow they will be joined by Prime Minister Mark Carney. The premiers want to show a united Team Canada front as trade tensions rise again with the U.S., Canada's largest trading partner. You can hear other national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A union for more than 100 workers at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hopes a budget cut doesn't lead to job losses. The museum's budget is being reduced by $3.2 million over the next 3 years. The federal government's trying to rein in spending. Marianne Ladoon at the Public Service Alliance of Canada says the situation creates unease for CMHR employees.
There's a human impact on this because you don't know if you're going to be affected. You don't know if you're going to have a job. That affects your decisions. It affects your decisions not to buy a new car, not to buy a new house.
A spokesperson for the museum couldn't say whether the cuts would lead to job losses. The surgical unit at Victoria Hospital is getting equipment upgrades expected to improve safety and surgical wait times. The hospital's busiest operating room is first in line. Decade-old gear will be replaced with state-of-the-art technology in August. The price tag? $450,000 coming from the Hospital Foundation. Dr. Chris Andrew leads Victoria's surgical team. He says larger monitors with higher resolution will make it easier to operate, more efficient and safer for both patients and healthcare workers.
What we would be looking at is possibly better outcomes, possibly a lower complication rates, and possibly an increased number of surgeries that we can do at this hospital.
2 operating theaters with even older technology are also expected to get similar upgrades. Well, breaking the losing skid.
Niederreiter, shot, score!
Nino Niederreiter in the second period there on TSN as the Winnipeg Jets get back to winning, edging the Devils 4-3. Coach Scott Arniel says it's momentum to start this road trip.
More than anything, it's the 2 points that we needed badly. So thought in the first period, we were kind of turning pucks over, not playing very fast, weren't getting through the neutral zone, and Jersey was hard on us, but thought our second period was the exact opposite. We played a lot quicker. We got out of our end. 1-2 passes, we were gone.
Connor Hellebuck in net for the Jets with 26 saves. Winnipeg now heads south, facing the Lightning in Tampa Bay tomorrow night. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells in our news center live. Well, Abby Adiemi, how's the last Wednesday of January?
Yeah, we're still locked into that frigid Arctic grape widespread across the province this morning. And we're looking at temperature range between a minus 27 in Brandon at this time, all the way to minus 29 around Swan River. So that's the range we have this morning. Most of the regions in the mid-20s and close to minus 30 in the province. Winnipeg right now, we are hovering between minus 25 and minus 26, depending on where you are. The wind chill biting, feeling like minus 35 this morning. Only going to slightly warm up in the afternoon period. We will see temperatures warm up to about minus 19 with the sunshine. However, the winds will make the wind chill feel close to minus 35, 36, 37, depending on where you are in the city. Across the southern region, Brandon to Gimli and Dauphin, expect sunshine, but the temperature range around minus 27 and minus 28. That's what we're seeing this morning, reaching highs of minus 19. Also, the wind chill is a concern, minus 39, demanding extra layers all day. And up north, Thompson, Churchill to Dooley Lake, we're seeing temperatures close to minus 28, minus 29 this morning. Some blowing snow and light flurries also spotted. We'll see highs close to minus 18 in the region, but the wind chill around minus 37. Clear skies continue into the evening period for most of the region, and we'll see some sunny conditions tomorrow. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at periodic clouds in and out before the sunshine, and we'll see temperatures warm up to minus 19 later, but right now we're around minus 25.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, with the commute trouble in Elmwood.
Yes, Nairn this morning between Chester and Kent closed both ways due to a fire in the area on the 800 block. Crews expect that, according to the city, to be closed for the majority of the morning for the foreseeable future. So you want to just avoid Nairn altogether this morning. Got a call from Zach earlier today who said a lot of people are taking Talbot to get around it. So expect some big backups on Talbot if you do end up on that road this morning as well. Also, another issue, northbound Pembina, just after Bison in the far left lane, there is a abandoned car that's been there since yesterday morning that is causing some backups. Keep right to get around that. There's some pylons around it, but it kind of sneaks up on you, heard from Jill. So heads up there, keep right northbound Pembina just after Bison. If you do see anything else going on, though, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Up next.
Manitoba, a mysterious place. There's cases to be solved. Your help would be music to my ears and yours, because this prize pack is so good, it's almost criminal. Solve the clue, and you could be enjoying 2 tickets to Murdoch Mysteries, Murder in F Major with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, dinner at Kevin's Bistro, and a limo ride to get there, as well as a meet and greet with the actor who plays Lewin Watts on Murdoch Mysteries.
Fabulous prize pack, super fun show, and what a beautiful night out. Are you going to be our winner? Well, to enter the contest, you have to solve, as you heard, the mystery. Let's find out if you got yesterday's clue right. Here's the mystery.
This shyster was once a pillar of the community. Sure, he built a pillar of justice, but he went to the wrong side of the law and even kept some pillars for himself. He wound up bringing down a government.
So pillar was your clue. Were you thinking about the ledge? The answer was Thomas Kelly. If you emailed Thomas Kelly to win at cbc.ca yesterday, you've earned an entry into our contest. All the correct entries, you can enter once a day. If you get an answer right, you're entered in. We'll make a random draw of all the entries by the end of the week. Thomas Kelly was the contractor who built the law courts and the Manitoba legislature more than a century ago. But the conservative Roblin government paid him the equivalent of roughly $20 million in material costs at the time, and he would go on and use cheaper materials to finish the projects. And then the extra money went into a fund for the Conservative election campaign. That scandal brought down the provincial government of the day. And yep, you're recognizing one of the names there, the Rodman-Roblin government. Rodman-Roblin was the grandfather of another Manitoba premier, Duff Roblin. You ready? Here is today's mystery clue.
The dark wilderness. Strange sounds heard from the shadows, not from a falcon, but from human voices. Unexplained burns. What incident is this referring to? Email win@cbc.ca with your answer.
Oh, that's a good one. That one is so mysterious. Can you answer that? What's it referring to? So you heard it. If you can solve the mystery, you can win this prize pack for a night out February 7th. WSO, Murdoch Mysteries, limo dinner at Kevin's Bistro, a super fun night out. We've also got a huge pack of prizes for you from Murdoch Mysteries, the show, and a CBC prize bag as well. Toques and a puzzle and all kinds of stuff. So contest to enter the contest, you have to solve that mystery. Win at cbc.ca. Get the right answer in. After 8, we'll play that clue once again. Time right now is 7:42 a.m. and let's get to something that was never a mystery. Usually you would think medically if you had appendicitis and it burst, you're going to be going in for surgery. But today's medical column is really interesting because you never want to experience a burst appendix, but appendicitis happens to thousands of people in this country every year. And for decades, as I alluded to, the only option was surgery. You get your appendix removed. But a 10-year study published this month in the Journal of the American Medical Association suggests that treating people with antibiotics might be a good option as well. So let's look at those two options with our host, Dr. Raj Bhardwaj. Hi.
Good morning, Marcy.
So before we get to this really interesting study, remind us what the appendix is and what it does for us, other than act as a ticking time bomb, which is sometimes what people think, right?
Right, yeah. So your appendix is a small tube. It's about the size of your pinky finger, and it's attached to your bowel tube. It sort of sits in your right lower part of your abdomen. And so for a long time, doctors figured that it didn't really serve any purpose. So it got a bad reputation as a vestigial organ that was, left over from evolution, no real function. But through the years, we've learned that your appendix actually does have some important functions. So one is that it acts like a safe house for your gut bacteria, your microbiome. So if you get a bad gut infection, then a bit of your normal bacteria can stay safe in your appendix. And once your gut is sort of flushed out, the bacteria that are hiding in your appendix can help to repopulate your intestines afterwards. The other thing is that your appendix contains tissues that are part of your immune system, similar to your tonsils actually, which we also don't take out as readily as we used to. So you can live without your appendix, but we're starting to lean towards leaving it in if we can do that safely, which is what this study is all about.
How would somebody know if they had appendicitis?
Well, they would have a stomach ache, right? So appendicitis usually gives you belly pain. The textbook version is that belly pain starts all over your belly, and then over hours or maybe a day or two, the pain focuses down to the area where your appendix lives on the right lower side of your belly. Along with that, usually people have no appetite. They often get a fever. We would, examine you, do some blood tests, do some imaging like an ultrasound or a CT scan if we think that appendicitis is high on the list of possibilities. Problem is that all that takes time, and we don't want to scan everybody who comes in with a stomach ache because most people don't have appendicitis. But on the other hand, we don't want to miss appendicitis, and the appendix doesn't read the textbook, so sometimes it shows up without the classic symptoms. So, it can be hard to sort out, which stomach aches are nothing serious and which stomach aches are maybe appendicitis.
Now, what can you tell us about this really interesting study?
So back in 2015, there was a study that proved that appendicitis could sometimes be treated effectively with antibiotics, but they found that a lot of people who had appendicitis and were treated with antibiotics ended up needing surgery anyway. So this study reports the 10-year follow-up results from that 2015 study. And they found that of the 250 or so people who originally had appendicitis, who were treated with antibiotics, overall, about 44% of them needed to have their appendix removed within 10 years, which doesn't sound great. But the flip side of that means that 56%, more than half, didn't need to have their appendix removed over the next 10 years. They did not have a recurrence of their appendicitis. So that sort of suggests that for adults who have uncomplicated appendicitis, antibiotics might be a pretty good option, maybe just as good a treatment than surgery. But the devil is in the details. So if you find yourself in that sort of unfortunate situation, of being diagnosed with appendicitis, I think it's worth a discussion with your emergency physician or your surgeon about your options. It might not always be necessary to cut your appendix out.
So what kind of details are you going to be discussing?
Yeah, so for some things, your surgeon or your physician might have a better better lock on some of the symptoms. Like, it depends on how long it's been going on. The longer you've had the symptoms, the greater the risk of complications, like your appendix leaking or bursting. If that happened, then you probably need antibiotics and surgery. The other thing is that on the imaging, sometimes we'll see a tiny little stone sitting in the appendix. These little appendix stones increase your risk of needing surgery, even if you get treated effectively with antibiotics, according to these two papers that were published. But the other thing to consider is stuff that's going on in your life. Like there's never a great time to have surgery, but there are worse times to have surgery, right? Like if you're diagnosed with appendicitis, but you're getting married in a few weeks, then avoiding or delaying the surgery by choosing antibiotic treatment might be a better option for you. On the other hand, if you travel a lot, you don't want to risk having another bout of appendicitis while you're out of the country sometime in the future, then choosing to get it out once and for all while you're home might be a better idea. I guess the flip side of that is, if you get diagnosed with appendicitis and you are traveling, you might say, okay, well, maybe I go on antibiotics, give it a couple of days to settle down, and then hop on a plane back home, and then see what I can do. So it's a not without risk, but really nothing is without risk. But according to this study, by 10 years, about 56% of the people treated with antibiotics still had their appendix, no recurrence of their appendicitis.
But it could recur, so that's the risk. But what about the risks of having the surgery?
Yeah, that's something that you need to consider, right? For any surgery, there are risks. There's the risk of anesthesia itself. There's the risk of bleeding, infection, injury to nearby organs, scarring, all sorts of things from the surgery. And then, in this study, they actually looked at the complication rate and they looked at the risks of surgery versus the risks of choosing not surgery. In this study, the numbers were a little bit high. They found that about a 27% complication rate after surgery. That seems high to me, but this study protocol also used open surgery only. So people weren't allowed to get keyhole surgery as part of the study protocol. And the keyhole surgery, the laparoscopic surgery, much more common these days. On the other hand, there's also a complication rate for antibiotics, right? Around 9% in this study. There was allergies to antibiotics. There was bowel infections from antibiotics. When we knock out all your good bacteria, sometimes the bad bacteria will overgrow, and then you need different antibiotics to treat that. So it's not a simple right versus wrong decision, though, that needs to be made. I think, in the past, it was surgery was it. It was like, yep, that's the right answer. But now maybe it's worth a discussion with your surgeon to help decide what's right with, for you in your circumstance. But that is a very different approach from what we've been doing for appendicitis for decades.
Interesting. All right. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That's our medical column with Dr. Raj Bhardwaj.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
Time right now is 10 to 8 on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or YouTube. Still ahead, Winnipeg drivers are losing almost 4 days a year stuck in traffic. And now the city ranks 6th among the most congested in Canada. We usually brag about not waiting in traffic, so we're going to get some details about what's behind this report by a tech company called TomTom. We're going to break it down for you right after 8 o'clock. Next on the show, though, downtown Winnipeg is getting 300 new housing units when 4 heritage buildings are renovated. Center Venture, with announcements yesterday, says plans are underway to redevelop the St. Charles Hotel, Ma's Garage, 290 Gary Street, and the Alloway Lofts. A third of those units will be affordable housing. The projects are getting $4.6 million from the city and the federal government. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham was there yesterday when this was announced.
More people living in downtown is key to vibrancy, it's key to safety, It's key to economic resilience. It's how we support the life of the businesses that set up in the downtown, whether it's the coffee shops, restaurants, insurance brokers, whatever the case may be. Those businesses need residents living in the downtown.
Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham at Centre Venture's housing announcement. So Centre Venture says this is part of their strategic plan to double the downtown population in our city by 2050. Kate Fensky, CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So it sounds like a lofty goal to double the population by 2050, but what are your thoughts on that downtown?
I'd actually like it a higher target. When the target first came out, it is kind of standard how our population growth has been going downtown. So, a few years ago, we were looking at about 18,000 population, which doesn't seem that significant. But if you compare to cities like Edmonton, which is a good comparison, their downtown population is about 13,000. And it has been growing. So our estimations right now are at about 20,000. We'll get the new Stats Canada numbers out soon. So it is growing. And when we look at the population growth in Winnipeg, we are going to need more housing. There's no secret there. We know that. And we know a lot of folks are looking to live in an urban environment. So whether they're young people or professionals, also folks that are maybe looking to downsize. So it's really important that we're creating that neighborhood and that community to welcome all of these people that are going to be living downtown.
Can it start with, when you look at what the housing plans are for these older buildings, for example, is that something that will be attracted to the kind of demographics that you think will be key to making our city grow?
Absolutely. The key is to have a wide variety of housing. So you need housing levels that hit all incomes, right? So it's everything from transitional housing to rent geared to income to affordable housing. And that's what a lot of these units are achieving. And then also market housing, because it has to make, the numbers have to work. So while I say that I would love a more ambitious target to grow our population, it is really hard to build housing downtown. It costs more, it takes longer, and then you add heritage components. It is complicated. So this is a huge win for our city.
In terms of walkability in that neighborhood feel, do we need to get truck traffic off of Portage Avenue once and for all and on the ring roads? Because I'm imagining more people downtown, more walking, more safety. And Portage Avenue, I mean, I sit here every day looking out the window. It's still such a busy thoroughfare.
There's so many different things that need to happen. And that's what's also very challenging right now. We know provincial budgets, city budgets, federal budgets, they're all stretched. But we do need more investment downtown. And when you look at the tax increment financing that has built so much of the housing that we have seen downtown in the last 10 years, there were incentive programs. So this announcement yesterday is there is support there to support developers. So, you have $4 million invested, but it's generating $88 million in private investment. And so that's really the tricky part here. So there needs to be investment. There needs to be support. When we look at where is there land downtown, because often in downtowns, there's nowhere else to build. We don't necessarily need to go up. We've got 30% of our downtown is surface parking lots. So how can we incentivize development on those? New builds with construction, tariffs, all of those things, it's really expensive. So that's one big component. And then, like you said, it is how does it feel in the community, in the neighborhood? What are the things you're hearing? What are the things you're seeing? Does it feel safe? Does it feel vibrant? Are there places and unique things to do and visit? Are there green spaces? If we want to actually build all of this housing and then have people that are interested in living there, it really is about that community. So it's cleanliness, it's safety, it's lighting, and it is fun things to do.
If 2050 you feel isn't soon enough, what would the date be that you would hope to see our downtown population grow?
I mean, it's growing every year. Mm-hmm. And so right now
we double, I should say.
Yeah. And right now we have, I think it's about 3,000 units that are either under construction or ready to be built. So just in the last week, we've had some big announcements. Railside at the Forks, right? Mm-hmm. Phase 1. There's a few hundred units here. Now with these 300 units in these heritage buildings. Portage Place redevelopment. I walk by Portage Place every day and I'm like, oh, another wall is down, right? And so we're going to have a tower of residential there. Wewene-Bagaknogan at the old Bay building. So there are incredible things happening right now. My concern really lies with what are we doing in the immediate term right now to make sure that our downtown is strong for when those when those units are finished.
The stuff around it.
Yeah, downtown's going to look very different in 3 to 5 years. And so we need to make sure we're doing some stuff right now.
I'm wondering about something everybody always asks about. People like to throw around the term grocery desert. There's a definition for what a grocery desert is. We have done some reporting over the years looking at the fact that downtown there are places to get groceries, but that there still continues to be a lack of sort of those big places where you can cut the coupons and compare. How needed is that to make this feel like a neighborhood?
I think when there are more people here, the grocery stores will come. There are plans for Portage Place that are working to secure a grocery store there, but our downtown is 300 blocks. So we're going to need a few different options. We also need different price points for folks. And I think, downtown family foods is a staple, if you will, that's been downtown for a long time. But as more people come and live downtown, we are going to need more options.
Thanks for being here, Kate, and for weighing in as our downtown changes and grows. I think a lot of people are watching the Bay and Portage Place with some excitement. Those cranes there, it feels like, here we are 6 years after the pandemic and maybe returning almost. That's how long it feels like it's taken in some ways.
Yes.
To be returning to that excited point.
Yeah, and I think when we look at, what's needed right now, I think with everything going on in the world, we just want to feel that we're okay in our city, with our families, with our friends, at our jobs, with our colleagues, and in our community. And so the bar is actually kind of low right now. And so for us, I'd like us to up the bar in Winnipeg. I'd like us to say, we're not okay with good enough. We can do better. And it is about all of us working together, coordinating our efforts, and making sure that we believe that we deserve more, that we deserve better, that we deserve an urban, vibrant community here. And I think we can do that.
Thanks for being in.
Thank you.
Kate Fensky, live on CBC, CEO of Downtown Winnipeg Biz. If you want to read more on this story, head to cbc.ca/Manitoba. Media actually got a tour of some of those downtown projects yesterday. Josh Crabb was there, I believe, for us at CBC. Let's go to what is coming up after 8 o'clock. I mentioned this before Kate and I were talking, and I think a lot of people might be surprised with this stat. Winnipeg now the 6th most congested city in Canada for traffic. We're going to talk to an expert on what might be causing the congestion and how that could be fixed. This is from a new report that came out. So we're going to hear more about that report by a technology firm company called TomTom. Right now, Heather Wells also is in with other headlines that are developing on your Wednesday morning. Hi there.
Hi. Well, a Canadian criminologist says extortion cases are on the rise right across the country. Yesterday, Winnipeg police announced charges for 5 people in a string of arson and extortion cases at several convenience stores this past July. 2 others are still wanted. Criminologist Wade Deisman calls the recent arrests in Winnipeg a big win. The surgical unit at Victoria Hospital is getting equipment upgrades, expecting to improve safety and some surgical wait times. The hospital's busiest operating room is first in line. We'll tell you what else will be happening at Victoria coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
In Winnipeg, -22, going to be around -19 with cloud cover today. Nairn closed both ways between Foster and Kent for a fire. That's going to be ongoing for some time here. Also, Sherbrooke at Sargent, stalled vehicle right lane. There's a fender bender Stafford and Academy. That's blocked the left lane eastbound Academy. As well, there's a stalled car in the right-hand lane about 1 kilometer before Dougal. That is starting to back up through St. Vital, so you can watch for that as well.
On cue.
Jane Hollander, I wanted to introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. The show Heated Rivalry has become a global sensation, and it's based on a book by Nova Scotia's Rachel Reed. She'll tell you about writing this gay love story that takes place in the world of hockey and how she's managing the pressure of having all of this success.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. Next, coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Canada's premiers meet in Ottawa today. Manitoba's Wab Kinew joins us to talk about what he's looking for and how to bridge divides, like his tiff with the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, over Crown Royal whiskey. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
Anti-ICE protesters spreading beyond Minnesota. People are demonstrating against the actions of immigration officers. Dozens of protesters have been arrested in New York, where ICE agents were believed to be staying. Anger is rising over the shooting death of 2 U.S. citizens, and the political divide is deepening. During a town hall last night, a congresswoman was attacked. Steve Futterman has the latest.
In Minneapolis last night, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was addressing a gathering of constituents.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
When suddenly a man stood up, walked toward her, and sprayed her with a substance. He was quickly tackled and then arrested. As tensions continue, Donald Trump has been forced to change some of his language. The administration is no longer calling the man who was killed this weekend by federal agents, Alex Preddy, a domestic terrorist. But Trump yesterday still seemed to be at least partially blaming Preddy for his own death.
I don't like the fact that he was carrying a gun. I mean, it's pretty unusual.
But a preliminary report by the Department of Homeland Security confirmed last night that at no time did Preddy brandish his gun. In Minneapolis yesterday, there were more protests.
We want the identity of the officers who killed Alex Preddy.
Demonstrations also took place in New York City, where anti-ICE protesters went inside a hotel where officers are being housed. There were some arrests.
I'm being arrested because Hilton is housing ICE.
Trump says he will, quote, de-escalate a little bit. However, there are no specifics, and federal agents remain in Minneapolis. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Ecuador's foreign ministry says ICE agents tried to enter the country's consulate in Minneapolis yesterday. A video posted online appears to show 2 men blocking a door. One can be heard yelling, "You cannot enter here, and this is a foreign government's property." Ecuador's foreign ministry says it has filed a formal notice of protest with the U.S. Embassy in Ecuador. It is now 1 month since Iranian demonstrators first took to the streets, and U.S. President Donald Trump is again talking about U.S. troops heading towards Iran. As Crystal Gomansing reports, it is still not clear what action the United States is prepared to take.
Everybody was saying, oh, this is it. This is the last movement. We're going to win this time.
25-year-old Parnia was with protesters in the streets of Isfahan on January 8th. She lives in the UK but was visiting family. She told the BBC demonstrators were hit first with tear gas and then plastic pellets.
I saw people on the ground. I saw blood. I didn't know where to go. So I just started running to find a shelter.
Parnia asked that only her first name be used. She expressed horror at the injuries she saw, yet went back out the next night, protesting as more people across the country called for an end to the Iranian regime. U.S. President Donald Trump encouraged the demonstrators, telling them he'd help. Last night in Iowa, he said this.
There's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal.
The possibility of U.S. intervention no longer sounds focused on defending the protesters, but rather ending a long-standing fight over Iran's nuclear ambitions. Earlier this week, Hezbollah's chief, Naim Qassem, said a new war on Iran would ignite the region. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
We will find out how Canada's central bank perceives the future of the country's economy this morning. The Bank of Canada will make its latest interest rate announcement. The current rate is at 2.25%. Most economists expect it to stay there. Economic uncertainty is on the horizon. There are concerns about the upcoming review of the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement. There's a lot of talk about Canadian unity as the country's premiers gather in Ottawa. Their winter meeting is tomorrow, but there are also some separate chats on the Prime Minister's agenda today. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, what do we know about all these talks?
Marcia, you could think of today as the meeting before the meeting, or rather meetings plural, because not only are the premiers sitting down today as a group before they meet as a group with Prime Minister Mark Carney tomorrow. But the real action really is in these smaller gatherings. Ottawa's hosting a Nordic Arctic Symposium today. That's a real focus for territorial premiers and an urgent one. The threats to northern sovereignty from the Trump administration may have stepped back from the brink, but they haven't disappeared. And a renewed push seems to be underway to present a united Team Canada front. We're going to see Ontario Premier Doug Ford and New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt out together over the noon hour, championing the recent expansion of the Port of St. John and its new capacity now to move more goods from central Canada. It's also game on between these premiers to compete for the resources and attention of the federal government to get their own priority economic projects built. Speaking on CBC Radio 1's The Current this morning, Manitoba's Premier Wab Kinew was touting his own port ambitions as he prepared to sit down with Mark Carney.
You know, of course, I want to hear them say they're going to back the money truck up to Churchill, Manitoba and build that port and trade corridor.
And speaking of getting resources to market, the Prime Minister's bilateral meeting agenda today includes a talk with BC Premier David Eby alone, followed by a closed-door chat with both Eby and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. As pipeline proposals remain unresolved, to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor reporting from Ottawa. Amazon is preparing for another round of layoffs. The company's senior vice president confirming this morning that around 16,000 jobs will be cut. She says U.S.-based staff would be given 90 days to look for a new role internally before being offered severance pay and other outplacement services. It's not yet clear how many Canadian workers may be affected. In October, Amazon laid off around 14,000 people. Ancestry.com is now explicitly barring law enforcement from using its services without a court order. It is the world's largest family tree database, and it updated its terms and conditions quietly. As Jonathan Gatehouse reports, the move affects how police solve decades-old cold cases.
This is a bracelet I was given.
The inscription on Sean McCowan's bracelet reads 14,219. A constant reminder of how many days it took to catch his sister's killer.
The body of Toronto native Erin Gilmore
was murdered in her Toronto home in 1983. Her case went cold until 2022, when police made an arrest using genetic genealogy to track down the killer. Joseph George Sutherland is now serving a life sentence.
It would sort of resolved a lot of trauma, knowing that someone is paying for what they did.
Solving cases like Gilmore's has recently become even harder, with the world's biggest genealogy database, Ancestry.com, now banning police from using the site to research things like birth, death, and marriage records without first obtaining a court order.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Toronto Police Headquarters.
Genetic genealogy has been a game changer for police, estimated to have helped solve more than 1,400 cases worldwide in the past 8 years. It puts old crime scene evidence through advanced new DNA tests that can give police clues on eye color, hair color, and most importantly, ancestry. Information that is compared to other DNA profiles to find distant relatives of the killer. Mapping out those family trees is a painstaking process. Ancestry's ban will make it even more time-consuming, says Acting Detective Sergeant Steve Smith, head of the Toronto Police Cold Case Unit.
It's not going to stop us from solving the cases, it's just going to slow us down from solving these cases.
At Ancestry, privacy is always our top priority.
An Ancestry.com spokesperson declined an interview request. A recent blog post about the change says the company is making sure the site is used for what it was created for, family history research. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
The nominees have been announced. Now the countdown is on to the 55th Annual Juno Awards. And this year, there's a new category, Latin Music Recording of the Year. Toronto-based Lito Pimienta is among the inaugural nominees. So is Andy Rubal, Isabella Love Story, and Mario Puglia. And of course, 7-time Juno nominee Alex Cuba. They've all been identified as the voices shaping Latin music today from a distinctly Canadian perspective. The Juno Awards broadcast happens in Hamilton, Ontario on March 29th, and you can watch it on CBC. That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. If you want to read more about those Juno nods from our community in Manitoba, please check out cbc.ca/Manitoba. Thanks for joining us here this morning. We are live. We are downtown on this last Wednesday of January, looking at our CBC windows here on Portage Avenue, which may be more congested. Winnipeg is the 6th most congested city in Canada when it comes to traffic. We're going to talk to an expert about what might be causing that congestion and how it could be fixed. This is coming from a new report that came out yesterday from a technology company called TomTom. So you're losing drivers almost 4 days a year now stuck in traffic. So we'll have that coming up for you this half hour on the show. Thanks for being here on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is Information Radio, your morning show on CBC. Headlines in a moment. And actually, Heather, starting or including something that may be affecting you in traffic today. Hi, Heather.
Hi, yeah, good morning. You are being asked to avoid a certain part of the city because of fire. It's closed Nairn between Chester and Kent this morning. Fire crews were called to a fire at a business in the 800 block of Nairn just before 2:30 this morning. No one was hurt. The city says crews, though, are expected to be on Nairn throughout the morning. They're asking you to steer clear if you can. Immigration cuts are forcing Manitoba to refocus its provincial nominee program. Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says the program's been devoting more spots to temporary residents, and that is at the expense of skilled workers from overseas who already have ties to Manitoba. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
And now to the weather with Abby Adiemi.
We're for sure locked in that frigid grip, and it's widespread across the province this morning. We're seeing mostly cloudy conditions across the regions now. Wind chills making it feel as cold as -40 in some areas in the northern part of the province. But for the city, we are also shivering, mostly cloudy in Winnipeg right now. Temperature, we're looking at it around -22, -23 with periodic clouds. We're heading into a sunny afternoon. Expect a high close to -19. A slim chance of flurries. And of course, the morning wind chill, you need to take that into consideration. It's going to be feeling like -36 this morning, which means frostbite is a thing, and then we'll see more cold temperatures, low of -27 overnight. In the southern part of the province, we're also expecting a sunny day for Brandon to Gimli and all the way towards Dauphin. We're looking at temperatures hovering between -21 and -28 this morning, a mix of sun and clouds. Later in the day, you reach a high of -19, wind chills close to -40. This will be demanding extra layers all day, while up north, we're already seeing a snowy start with temperatures sitting near -22 and wind chills close to -37 with blowing snow around the Thompson Churchill area this morning, and the high around -18 for the areas. But it's the wind chill you need to deal with today.
We should pitch an art installation on our boulevards here. When you look at the window in Portage Ave at this time of day, when it's not a sunny day with that beautiful blue sky, which is awesome in the winter, you get such a gray view, right? Because the slushy stuff is kind of gray, or it's icy but slushy. But the snow's gray because it gets dirty, is my point, and the sky is gray. If we had like colorful sort of metal flowers up and down, or something filling the planters with color,
that wouldn't be a bad idea.
You can be like St. John's and we'd all just paint our houses nice colors.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, we need some kind of a colorful initiative in this province, I think, right? That's Corey Funk. He used to live there, so he knows, went to school there, but he's
My
from
house was
here.
yellow.
Was it? Oh,
I loved
nice.
it.
I like that. Traffic issues.
Yes, a couple things to keep it off. Of course, there was Nairn, which closed between Chester and Kent. We heard that in the news from Heather. That's going to be a problem all morning. But lots of small stalls and fender benders this morning, throwing things off for folks. One thing here, and you'll see the picture up on air. This came from our producer, Travis Peterson. He says Tasha and Marion, he took a picture, actually. There's a car that's up in a building right now, and there's emergency crews on scene blocking the curb lane, tending to that situation right now. So that's Taché right just past Marion there. So do look out for that. As well, and some other issues to keep an eye out for is on Dugald and La Jamodière. We got a call actually from the St. Vital Import. Actually, he said eastbound perimeter, just approaching Dugald about a kilometer before. In the right-hand lane, there's a stalled car causing some big backups. Also, also Stafford and Academy. Duncan said that eastbound Academy in the left lane is blocked because of a fender bender there. Keep right to get around that. Pam also said at Sherbrooke and Sargent in the right lane, there's another vehicle blocking the right lane, so keep left to get around that as well. And finally, northbound Pembina, just past Bison, there's a car that's been there since yesterday. Someone put out some pylons to let people know, but it's kind of just been abandoned there. Keep right to get around that. That's going to cause some backups for folks this morning as well. So lots of little issues on the commute, causing things to be pretty congested.
Did you say this one? Abby just put this on screen. Westbound Dugald and Lash?
Yes, that is also, I think, just came in. Can you just give an update on there?
Yeah, stall still blocking. Yeah, okay. Outside westbound turn lane, so left to pass there. And that, by the way, that Taché and Marion photo where there's been some issue with a car in a building, that's right where Fortify and NOLA is. So that's, if you can imagine, that part of St. B, very busy in the morning through there. So certainly avoid that.
Yes, certainly. If you have any other updates for us, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, speaking of traffic, as I mentioned, the data shows that Winnipeggers lost on average almost 4 days or 94 hours in traffic last year. The data also highlights that a 10-kilometer trip took an average of 24 to 26 minutes, and evening commutes are the most congested. CBC's Jim Agapito spoke to a couple of Winnipeg drivers about how they feel about these stats.
This is Cheryl Gable.
According to the TomTom Traffic Index, Winnipeg is the 6th most traffic congested city in Canada. So it says that Winnipeg spent an average of 94 hours, which is almost 4 days, last year in traffic. When you hear that, how do you feel?
Well, I work and live close to here, and so I don't really get stuck in that traffic. And I think, geez, where are you people living and traveling to? So I don't see that traffic, I guess. Maybe on the weekends going shopping out at other places, there's some traffic, but I mean, we live in Winnipeg. It's okay.
Angelo Gabriel. I believe it's true. Yeah.
Why do you believe it's true?
Well, usually there's a lot of construction, so you're kind of stuck in traffic, and I think a lot of people got to learn how to start zipper merging.
So you think that contributes to the problem?
Yeah.
If you were to get those hours back, what would you do with them?
If I were to get those hours back, I'd probably spend more time out at my trailer in the summer or something for 4 days.
Do these results surprise you at all?
They do, because as I said, I don't see that the traffic is really that bad.
I'd spend a lot of time with my grandkids. Yeah, they love to visit, right? So the more I'm home, the more I get to see them.
Couple people weighing in with CBC's Jim Agapito about how they feel about spending an average of 94 hours, nearly 4 days in traffic last year, though, of course, one of those commuters says she doesn't really see quite that. Let's talk about the stats. Baher Abdulhai is with us, professor of civil and mineral engineering over at the University of Toronto, with an expertise in traffic management. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what stands out to you hearing Winnipeg ranked 6th most congested city in Canada?
First of all, welcome to the club of most congested cities in Canada. In Toronto here, we've been holding the trophy for quite some time. Actually, congestion is spreading all over the world. It's like a plague, pretty much. All cities are bound to experience congestion. It's just a matter of when. I'm a bit surprised that given the smaller size of Winnipeg, that you made it up the list that far. But congestion is very simple to explain. It's hard to tackle. When you have too many cars for the available road space, then simply we call this demand exceeding road capacity, then you have congestion.
Yeah. I love your welcome to the club because we have not been part of this club. We would brag here, we're the city that you can live in and not worry about being stuck in traffic. People would often say, I grew up here, so I know that people would often say you can get anywhere in 20 minutes in Winnipeg, across the city, anywhere. Doesn't seem to be the case. The report found Winnipeg is more congested, though, than other bigger cities, like Calgary. So what sense do you make of that?
Well, again, it's a ratio of how many cars you have for the available space. So if the number of cars exceeds or the available space, then you'll have congestion. It could be smaller in size, but you have less infrastructure and therefore will be more congested. So when you look at the root causes of congestion, they are simple to understand. You have population growth and persistence car dependence. We plan our cities in a way that you have to drive. So demand for road space keeps increasing, while the infrastructure, the roads in particular, and of course transit infrastructure, are not keeping up with the increase in population. So therefore congestion keeps increasing. Now add to that what we technically call capacity breakdown, meaning that when we fight for space, like if you're merging on the freeway, and we heard one of the guests today talking about zipper effect, that when people fight for space, they create turbulence, and that reduces the capacity of the system even further. Or when people block intersections, for instance, and fight who gets into the intersection first, then that deteriorates capacity even further. And then, of course, if you have incidents, like you talked about fire and or construction, then that limits capacity even further and exacerbates congestion.
It's interesting because the data looks at a lost average of 94 hours stuck in traffic last year. In bigger cities like Toronto, the average loss is 100 hours lost in traffic last year, which I think was quite surprising. It might surprise a lot of Winnipeggers. What does that tell us about how the city functions day to day? Like, are you better off to solve this by, as you've been alluding a couple of times, we just don't have the capacity infrastructure-wise. Are you better off to improve your transit system, to divert people, to use green, get on their bikes and such, active transportation? Or do you just have to build better networks in your core?
Well, you have three ways to tackle congestion. Either reduce demand, reduce the number of cars, or increase capacity, or use intelligence. So let's briefly talk about each one of them. Like if you want to build capacity, what's the downside of that? It's billions of dollars, and it takes decades to do that, but it's inevitable. So if we are building capacity, we're definitely much better off building public transit capacity as opposed to road capacity, because if you build more roads, then you're cementing people in their cars and enforcing the behavior of I drive everywhere, and nobody will take transit. So if people start carpooling, for instance, if every two drivers leave a car behind and join in one car, that's 50% less cars on the road. And the ultimate carpooling device ever created is a bus or a LRT or subway. So definitely we need to build capacity in the form of transit, encourage people to use it, give them disincentive to drive, like for instance, congestion pricing. So that's all of this, or telecommute. If you telecommute, then again, you're not in a car on the road. All of these things reduce the demand and increase the capacity. There is also, you can use artificial intelligence, for example, that I'm sure you got stuck at a traffic light somewhere and you're wondering, why is it so dumb? It's like keeps repeating the same thing and does not adapt to fluctuations in traffic. Sometimes you get red, and the other side, there are no cars. For this, we're using artificial intelligence to kind of make a traffic light like a robot, in a sense that it has eyes and it has a brain. And as it sees traffic approaching from different directions, it thinks on its tippy toes and serves traffic in an agile manner that could reduce your wait time at intersections by 30-40%.
Okay, and just to interject here, that's different than like on Portage Avenue. If people are thinking about it, they made a big thing about the fact that our lights are coordinated. They'd all go green at the same time, so you keep moving. But you're talking about more responsiveness. It's, no one's around, you're sitting at a red light, why am I sitting here? You wouldn't have that. You just keep moving because it would sense that.
Yes, so exactly. This is like having a very smart cop at an intersection and looking at what is coming in real time and adjusting which direction to serve. But it's just robotic in that sense.
Can I ask you about a Winnipeg sort of focused question? Like Toronto obviously has a core center and then has a whole bunch of like suburbs. So people are coming in and out on the 401. Winnipeg, we're very much going right across our city, all of the traffic at all times. So we also have, a lot of suburbs ringing us, and then a center that we try to get to. Is LRT more effective than transit? But if you look at other cities comparable to our size, how does one make that decision of if that's going to be more effective?
Well, LRT is transit, so there are different levels of transit. You can have higher order transit like commuter rail, like GO Transit in the Greater Toronto Area, for instance. This is very high capacity. You're talking about a train carrying 1,000 people or so. Also, you can talk about subway, which is very fast, unobstructed by traffic, and high capacity as well. But these are like the gold standards and are expensive. I'm not sure if they are justified in Winnipeg yet. Lower a little bit is light rail transit, and cities of your size, like look at Waterloo, for instance, they are building LRT. So that should be looked into seriously in Winnipeg. And of course, bus rapid transit, like in Ottawa, where you have dedicated routes with no traffic for buses. The idea is to make transit much higher capacity and much faster.
And we do have bus rapid transit in the works here. It's just that some argue that we're still not filled out with all of the routes, right? It's taking a long time. Thank you very much for weighing in on this study with us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That is live with us on Zoom, Beher Abduhai, professor of civil and mineral engineering over at the University of Toronto with an expertise in traffic management. Time right now is 8:26. And in case you missed it earlier, we have been talking about what has been going on with our contest. So Murdoch Mysteries and the WSO getting together for a beautiful night out in Winnipeg that you could win a limo to the show. And then what happens is you go and you watch musically what's happening with the show. I'm looking at Abby because I'm not sure if we're going to just play the clue or are we actually going to play how it works. Okay, so I'm going to explain how it works here. We're looking for you to solve a mystery, and you have to tell us the answer if you can solve this. You're emailing win@cbc.ca if you know what this is describing.
The dark wilderness. Strange sounds heard from the shadows, not from a falcon, but from human voices. Unexplained burns. What incident is this referring to? Email win@cbc.ca with your answer.
So if you can solve that mystery, win@cbc.ca. You could win this fabulous night out. February 7th, dinner for two, night with WSO, meet and greet with a star from Murdoch Mysteries, whole bunch of prizes. So get that answer in if you know who that is referring to, the incident rather that's referring to, win@cbc.ca. And good luck. If you want to read more about the contest, cbc.ca/community. Well, we are celebrating our Juno Awards this morning, and we have time to slide in some more music. Also nominated yesterday, one of the Juno nominees from our province, from Tatasqueyac Cree Nation, Sebastian Gaskin, making the list for Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year. Here he is with a song from his latest album called Love Child. This is Safe.
We both ain't leaving till we restore the things that we broke when we lost control. We'll say all our sorrows to the moon. Ooh, oh. Take a breath, 'cause these things will happen when you got the best. My arms will be open when you come back. I'll be right here holding you close. Oh, oh, you make me feel safe. You carry the pain within a place where love ain't the same. Oh, 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 Summer's gone, the winter is coming, but we're holding on. Stay in the bedroom till the autumn's gone and the flowers all bloom. Ooh, You make me feel safe. You carry the rain.
Sebastian Gaskin, one of our Manitoba nominees for the Junos. The nods came out yesterday. This is Safe, and the album is up for, he's up for rather, Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year. Your CBC News for Manitoba is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, the temperature really hasn't budged much at all this morning. Still at minus 22 and not warming up a whole lot. A high today of minus 19 with increasing clouds. Very slight chance of flurries. Winnipeg is not alone in seeing a rise in extortion of small business owners. 5 people have been charged in a string of arson and extortion incidents at convenience stores over the past summer. Winnipeg police are looking for 2 other suspects who they say may have fled the province. Wade Deisman is a criminologist in BC's Fraser Valley. He says extortion cases are on the rise right across the country. There's been an increase where he lives, and he's not surprised it's happening in Winnipeg as well.
There's a fairly strong consensus now amongst commentators, criminologists, statisticians that we are seeing a quite significant surge in the number of cases.
The Winnipeg incidents happened in July at locations on Selkirk, Spruce, Main, and Portage Avenue. At least 3 attempts were made to extort money from businesses in exchange for protection from arson. Fire has closed Nairn Avenue between Chester and Kent Streets this morning. Fire crews were called to a blaze in a business in the 800 block of Nairn just before 2:30 this morning. They arrived to heavy flames. Aerial ladders were brought in because it was not safe to enter that building. No one has been hurt. The city says fire crews are expected to be on the scene throughout the morning and ask people to avoid that area. Once again, Nairn closed in both directions between Chester and Kent. Well, if you live or work in part of downtown Winnipeg, you're going to be without power for part of this morning. Manitoba Hydro needs to replace a pole, and in order to do that safely, crews have to shut down power. About 370 customers are included in the affected area, and that area loosely is between Yonge and Balmoral and Broadway and Portage. All the area in between. The outage is expected to begin around 10 o'clock this morning and last until noon. Immigration cuts are forcing Manitoba to refocus its provincial nominee program. Immigration Minister Malaya Marcelino says the program has been devoting more spots to temporary residents. That is at the expense of skilled workers from overseas who already have ties to Manitoba. Marcelino says that group has a higher retention rate, but the province is focusing on temporary workers because there's lots of them after Ottawa loosened restrictions amid a post-pandemic labor shortage. Reese Pactacan is an immigration lawyer in Winnipeg, and he says Manitoba is right to create a pathway to permanent residency for temporary workers.
To some extent, you have to say, if these people are making a contribution to our economy, if these people are making a contribution to our community, why should we prioritize others who aren't even here for people who are already here and contributing?
The province is also prioritizing nominee spots for newcomers who have arrangements with certain employers and municipalities. Federal budget cuts are creating unease for workers at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg. The museum's budget is being reduced by $3.2 million over the next 3 years, part of government efforts to rein in spending. Marianne Ladoon at the Public Service Alliance of Canada hopes the museum will be transparent with its employees.
We represent about over 100 employees at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and anytime we hear of budget cuts, it's extremely concerning and very alarming.
In a statement, the museum's CEO, Aisha Khan, tells CBC the museum will continue to deliver its mandate. A spokesperson for the museum says they don't have information at this time about whether the budget cut will lead to job losses. The surgical unit at Victoria Hospital in Winnipeg is getting equipment upgrades expected to improve safety and some surgical time waits. The hospital's busiest operating room is first in line. Decade-old gear will be replaced with state-of-the-art technology this August. The price tag? $450,000 coming from the hospital's foundation. Dr. Chris Andrew leads Victoria's surgical team. He says larger monitors with higher resolution will make it easier to operate, more efficient and safer for both patients and healthcare workers.
What we would be looking at is possibly better outcomes, possibly at lower complication rates, and possibly an increased number of surgeries that we can do at this hospital.
2 operating theaters with even older technology are also expected to get similar upgrades. Nestle Canada is recalling some of its Gerber arrowroot biscuits because of possible presence of soft plastic and paper pieces that might have been present in the flour. This recall is isolated to 3 batches of the biscuits sold in 155-gram packages. To learn more about this recall of Gerber arrowroot biscuits, go to our website. And you can find more Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Lots going on in the commute. Corey?
It's, of course, Nairn, as we heard. Chester to Kent closed both ways due to a fire. Also got a call from Kerry, northbound Henderson. Right outside the Roxy lanes there, you lose both your right and middle lane, just a left lane there going northbound. That's going to slow you down. And that car northbound Pembina past Bison has now been towed.
All right, Abby.
Northern Manitoba, current temperature sitting near -25 with blowing snow. Highs would reach -18. However, the wind chill is going to be on the high side, close to -41. While down south, we're seeing temperatures hover near -27 under a mix of sun and clouds. Most of the regions will see highs near -19, but the wind chill around -38.
Robin Summerfield, Sierra Sanders, Zabina Ahmed, as well as Sophia Peralta-Barone. All thank you for your work on the program this morning. In addition, Heather Wells, Alana Cole, and Megan Ketchison, and our Studio 15 crew, Corey Funk, Abby Adiyemi, and Darren Marash. Our producers are Nellie Gonzalez, and the senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Stay tuned, Manitoba, because The Current's next, and Premier Rob Canoe is going to be featured with an interview.